divine and mysterious immortality, I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Undercurrent Surges. A pair of very ordinary eyes, but flashing with an indescribable brilliance. This pair of eyes belonged to a middle-aged man named Zhou Yan, who was a skinner. In the talisman workshop, skinners were definitely the lowest level of existence. Zhou Yan happened to be ordinary in appearance, behaved honestly and dully, and no one had ever paid attention to him. His presence was simply as low as it could be. However, no one knew that this skinner named Zhou Yan was not a real skinner, and Zhou Yan was not his real name. His real name was Zhao Cheng. When Yan Feng burned the contract in front of everyone, Zhao Cheng was mixed in the crowd and watched quietly. He didn't say a word from beginning to end, and was just watching. After Yan Feng left, he thought to himself, Wei Hong? The neighbor that Meng Han told me about last time? He actually left the talisman workshop despite the backlash of the spiritual contract. Is it a coincidence, or does he know something? Impossible. No one knows our plan except our own people. It seems to be just a coincidence. Forget it. Once the spiritual contract is burned, he will be useless even if he doesn't die. Whether it is a coincidence or not, there is no need to care about it. Zhao Cheng shook his head secretly and didn't think about Wei Hong anymore. It was just because of such an incident that Zhao Cheng subconsciously prepared to speed up the progress. Perhaps even Wei Hong himself didn't expect that his departure would actually accelerate the outbreak of the storm in the talisman workshop. Wei Hong sat cross-legged and was practicing hard. Just when Yan Feng burned the spiritual contract, the curse that was wrapped around him immediately reacted. Puff. Puff. Wei Hong's face changed drastically, and he vomited blood 3 times. But he didn't care how much blood he spit out at this moment, because at this moment the spiritual power in his body was completely out of control. What's going on? Why is the spiritual power so violent? Wei Hong's face was pale, and he gritted his teeth. The spiritual energy in his body, which was originally very docile, became extremely violent at this moment, like a mad buffalo, and was not under his control at all, but ran rampant in his body. Wei Hong was immediately taken seriously because of the collision of spiritual power, and then he spit out several mouthfuls of blood. Damn it, there must be something wrong with this spiritual contract. Wei Hong was so angry that he cursed. He barely opened his spiritual pupils and took a look at himself. Sure enough, the curse energy wrapped around him suddenly increased tenfold, and it looked like a layer of black curtain covering Wei Hong. Absolutely right, it must be that bastard Yan Feng who burned my spiritual contract. The surging curse energy was proof, and Wei Hong immediately figured out the reason. But at this moment, he had no intention to think about the spiritual contract. The rioting spiritual power had already brought him to the edge of infatuation. Puff. The rampaging spiritual power caused the meridians in Wei Hong's body to be torn continuously, and his internal organs were even more injured. Wei Hong spurted out another mouthful of blood. He gritted his teeth and began to control the rioting spiritual power in his body with all his strength, trying to make it docile. At the same time, as long as the injury became more serious and his health value dropped below 60%, he would add vitality points to his health value to ensure that his life would not be threatened. Despite this, the rioting spiritual power still made Wei Hong suffer a lot. Especially under the influence of the curse aura that had skyrocketed tenfold, the rioting spiritual power was like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins, and it was very difficult to tame, and it also had an extremely powerful momentum. Puff puff puff. Wave after wave of crazy attacks made Wei Hong spit out blood continuously. Fuck Yan Feng, I'll take this grudge. When I recover, I'll kill him even if it means exposing my identity. The terrible condition in his body made Wei Hong extremely angry, and his hatred for Yan Feng, the instigator, reached its peak. With such hatred, Wei Hong has been gritting his teeth to control the spiritual power in his body. He can't let the spiritual power continue to riot. If that happens, no matter how many vitality points he has, it will not be enough to repair it. If it were other cultivators, even cultivators in the late stage of key training, they would definitely become useless under such a violent spiritual power impact, or even explode and die directly. After all, spiritual power riot is not a joke. It is the nightmare of all cultivators, just like the inner demon. But Wei Hong still has the means to deal with this terrible situation at this time. The vitality points are his strongest backing. As long as he doesn't die immediately, the vitality points can repair all his injuries and ensure that his life will not be threatened at all. Therefore, although the impact of the first few waves of violent spiritual power almost cost him his life, Wei Hong still survived and began to show signs of taming the violent spiritual power. To be honest, the most dangerous moment was when the spiritual contract was burned. Now Wei Hong has survived the most dangerous moment, but the backlash that follows should not be underestimated. I don't believe that this curse energy can still be so strong. Wei Hong gritted his teeth fiercely, feeling annoyed and angry. Fortunately, at this time, the violent spiritual power in his body has begun to be slowly controlled by him. Although it is still violent, the degree of violence has definitely decreased a lot compared to the beginning. At this time, Wei Hong opened his spiritual pupils again and looked at himself. Okay, it has indeed been consumed a little. In this case, I will consume it. Seeing that the thick curse energy was indeed consumed, Wei Hong was overjoyed. His guess was not wrong. As long as he could withstand these waves of spiritual power impact, the curse energy would still be slowly consumed even if it surged tenfold. Wei Hong didn't care about the injuries in his body at all. He began to control his spiritual power with all his heart and soul, trying to tame the violent spiritual power as soon as possible, so as to ensure that he would not have any problems again. At the same time, he also focused on his health. As long as his health dropped below 60%, he would immediately add vitality points. In this way, relying on the means of repairing injuries with vitality points, Wei Hong withstood wave after wave of spiritual power shocks and endured curse damage again and again. However, the curse energy that had surged tenfold was indeed powerful. Whenever Wei Hong was about to tame the violent spiritual power, the curse energy would show its power, making the spiritual power in his body become violent again. Fortunately, the curse energy was also being consumed layer by layer, and the intensity of the backlash was slowly decreasing as time went by. I don't know how long it took before Wei Hong slightly opened his eyes, finally controlled, but this is far from over. At this time, Wei Hong's face was extremely pale, and his whole body was like being fished out of the water. Even his voice was much weaker, and you can imagine how much torture he had endured. Chapter 427 Rest and Revenge. 2 hours later, the cursed energy returned. Even without practicing, the spiritual power in Wei Hong's body began to riot again. However, Wei Hong had expected it and was not panicked. Because when the cursed energy subsided, he saw through his spiritual pupils that most of the cursed energy was still left on his body, so he knew that this torture was far from over and he needed to continue to endure it. The good news is that after the last spiritual power riot, the cursed energy has been consumed as a whole. As long as it continues to be consumed, it will be consumed sooner or later. With the help of the means of repairing injuries with vitality points, Wei Hong repeatedly endured the persecution of the curse and the riot of spiritual power. Each time, he could consume a lot of the black energy shrouding him, and as time went on, the rioting spiritual power began to become weaker and weaker. Wei Hong gradually regained control of his spiritual power, making the time of spiritual power riot shorter and shorter. Half a month later, Wei Hong closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the bed. Compared with half a month ago, his face was no longer pale, but full of rosy and blood color, and it was obvious that he had recovered a lot. After a moment, Wei Hong suddenly opened his eyes. Puff! A mouthful of blood mixed with a little black gas spurted out, and instantly turned into black blood water when it fell on the ground. After this mouthful of blood, Wei Hong not only did not suffer any injuries, but laughed immediately. Ha ha ha, it's finally all gone. What can a mere spiritual contract do to me? Wei Hong was very relaxed at this time, with an extremely happy expression. Because after half a month of confrontation, he finally succeeded in eliminating all the cursed energy today. At this point, all the backlash caused by violating the spiritual contract has dissipated, and can no longer affect him at all, let alone bind him. Perhaps the people in the talisman workshop thought that he would die, or at least be completely disabled. But the facts are completely opposite to what they expected. I don't know if Yanfeng would be so angry that he would vomit blood if he knew this result. Wei Hong was naturally very happy about such a good thing. After laughing a few times, he couldn't help but sigh quietly. Recalling the various tortures in the past half-month, Wei Hong's hatred and murderous intention toward Yanfeng became even stronger. Although he has now successfully eliminated the curse, He has suffered a lot in the past half-month. Whether it is the rioting spiritual power or the persecution of the curse, he still remembers it vividly. If there is no vitality point to help, he may find it difficult to survive. Fortunately, all this is over, and he doesn't have to worry about the contract anymore. This curse is so powerful that it doesn't even need to show up. It can kill people through the curse. It's really weird. When Wei Hong thought of the curse persecution he suffered, he couldn't help but want to understand the curse in depth. This time he finally knew the power of the curse. He thought that if he could master this method of killing people invisibly, it would add another powerful trump card for him. I don't know if I can buy spells related to curses. If I can't find them on the market, it will be difficult to learn how to curse. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart, and at the same time thought of Yan Feng, and immediately gritted his teeth and said, "Yan Feng, that bastard, I will remember this grudge. If I have the chance, I must kill him." If Yan Feng hadn't burned his spiritual contract, how could he have been tortured like this? Although he has survived this time, he has completely hated Yan Feng in his heart. As long as he finds a chance, he will never let Yan Feng go. Ruining someone's future is a life and death feud, and no one can do it. But Yan Feng is a late-stage cultivator of the 7th level of key training, and it is not so easy to deal with him. Wei Hong stroked his chin and thought secretly, this matter still needs to be carefully planned. Don't be impulsive. Yan Feng is a cultivator in the late stage of key training. I estimate that we can only take him down by using all our means. But if I expose all my means in the market, not to mention that the momentum is too great, it will definitely attract the pursuit of the patrol team. Once my identity is exposed, the previous 2 incidents will probably be known to be done by me. It will be difficult to live a low-key life in the market at that time. This matter still needs to be considered in the long run. Although Wei Hong wanted to deal with Yan Feng, he couldn't think of any good way for a while. After all, Yan Feng is different from the previous old talisman masters. He is a cultivator of the 7th level of key training and an outer disciple of Kingayan sect. Whether it is means or hidden cards, they are not comparable to ordinary casual cultivators. Wei Hong dare not underestimate them. Besides, Yan Feng has been staying in the talisman workshop and rarely goes out. Let's not talk about whether the sneak attack can be successful. Even if he wants to sneak attack him, he may not find an opportunity. Forget it, let's take a rest for a while. It's better not to go out recently. Wei Hong suppressed the idea of revenge and began to slowly practice King Muju. The next day, he was going to go to the market, buy some necessary supplies and return immediately. Now he is Guan Yu, the array master, not Wei Hong, the talisman maker. Although he has survived safely and has not been affected at all, he is the only one who knows about this matter. In the minds of outsiders, Wei Hong may have already gone crazy and died. So whether it is for the sake of caution or keeping a low profile, he does not want to let Wei Hong appear in the market in the near future. After leaving the courtyard, Wei Hong went straight to the market. But before he went to the market, Wei Hong felt something was wrong. What's wrong? Why does the atmosphere in the market feel much more tense than before? Wei Hong frowned slightly. He saw that not only were there fewer monks walking in the market, but the people who passed by him all seemed to be in a hurry. Most importantly, it seemed that everyone looked at other strange monks with vigilance and precautions. This tense atmosphere was even more serious than before. Could it be that the robbery cultivators have not been completely eliminated yet, and they are still coming to attack us? Wei Hong's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this possibility. However, after thinking about it carefully, he shook his head and felt that it was impossible. Perhaps the Blood Eagles were not completely eliminated by the Kingayan sect, but it was a little unrealistic to attack the market directly. He had been in this world of immortal cultivation for so long, and he had never heard of any market being captured by robbery cultivators. No. Wei Hong suddenly thought of Zhao Cheng, who had sneaked into the talisman workshop after disguising himself, and his heart suddenly shuddered. This is not right. I don't know about other places, but this Kingayan mountain market may really happen. Otherwise, why would Zhao Cheng sneak into the talisman workshop? Thinking that the robbery cultivators might really attack the market in the near future, Wei Hong immediately became nervous. Chapter 428, Chaos in the Market Town. Living in the market of Kingayan Mountain, no one can stay out of it once the market is in turmoil. Thinking of this, Wei Hong suddenly felt a sense of urgency. He first walked quickly to the market and bought the several kinds of supplies he needed. Then he asked a person who was not too familiar with him about what happened recently. After asking around, he finally figured out the whole story. Amazing, this blood eagle is definitely not a robbery cultivator, at least not an ordinary robbery cultivator, otherwise it would not be so noisy until now. After Wei Hong understood what happened, he was immediately moved. The tense atmosphere in the market was related to the blood eagle. It is said that even though King Gayan sect dispatched dozens of outer disciples, including more than 10 masters at the peak of key training, they still failed to wipe out the robbery cultivators outside the market, and most of them escaped. Moreover, those robbery cultivators have started to make trouble again recently. Not only did they randomly kill people who left the market, but they also counterattacked the King Gayan sect disciples who were chasing them, killing more than 10 or 20 King Gayan sect outer disciples at once. As a result, the King Gayan sect was furious. They immediately sent out 5 or 6 foundation-building inner disciples to hunt down the surviving Blood Eagle gang. The leader of the Blood Eagle was especially taken care of. However, even though the King Gayan sect sent out several foundation-building disciples to hunt down the robber cultivators, the cultivators in the market were still very nervous. It was not for anything else, but because all the people who entered and left the market were killed some time ago. With such a terrible situation, how could the people who stayed in the market not be nervous and afraid? So much so that now no one dared to leave the market, fearing that they would never come back after leaving. What an unprovoked disaster. Wei Hong shook his head helplessly, and sighed to the cultivators who were affected. Damn it, even if it is a robber cultivator, you can't kill people randomly. Isn't this forcing those high-level cultivators to take action? At the same time, Wei Hong also felt fortunate that he had not left the market during this period. But when he thought about it, he realized something was wrong. It shouldn't be. Wei Hong frowned deeply, thinking secretly, facing the encirclement and suppression of King Gayan sect, if they were really robbery cultivators, they would have fled long ago. How could they dare to come back to kill people? Normal robbery cultivators would never dare to be so rampant. They value their lives more than anything else. Unless they are really not robbery cultivators, and they are not here for money, but to seek revenge on King Gayan sect. Wei Hong felt more and more wrong, and at the same time, he felt that his guess was very likely to be true. This made him take a breath, as if he finally understood the truth of the matter. The most important thing is that although King Gayan sect sent out several foundation-building cultivators to hunt them down, those robbery cultivators were still rampant. Obviously, even the foundation-building cultivators couldn't do anything to them. If you still don't understand this, you should really hit your head and die. No, it's too dangerous outside. I'd better go back and practice hard. I must not show up. Wei Hong was worried and turned around to return to the courtyard. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Boom. Swish. A sudden explosion roared, accompanied by the faint sound of sword energy, not far away. It can be said that this incident happened very suddenly and without any signs. Wei Hong was startled. After a slight shock, he subconsciously looked in the direction of the explosion. He saw not only explosions a few miles away, but also balls of fire and thick smoke rising up. What's the situation? What happened? Wei Hong's face was solemn, and he also looked around vigilantly. He didn't know what happened yet, but he knew that there would be chaos in the market. Sure enough, the whole market was alarmed by the huge explosion. What happened? Where did the explosion come from? Which direction? Is it outside the market or inside the market? Quick, go and see what happened. Don't make a fuss, don't make a fuss, stay where you are. Various shouts instantly resounded throughout the King Gayan Mountain market. Everyone was in an uproar, looking at the direction of the explosion without knowing why. At this time, the market also responded quickly. Wei Hong felt an invisible wave flashing by, and a layer of white light instantly rose up and covered the entire market. Needless to say, it was known that the market had activated a defensive array. Wei Hong's expression was slightly condensed. Even the array protection is activated. He was of course not stupid. It was definitely not a small matter for the market to directly activate the array. What's going on? The array protection is directly activated. Quick, go back, don't stay here. Something big has happened, let's not join in the fun, let's go. I want to see what happened, maybe I can get a piece of it. Seeing that the market had activated the defensive array, everyone was talking about it. These people knew very well that something big must have happened inside the market. Therefore, Many monks who were worried about being involved in trouble returned to their residences. But at this time, there were also many bold people who wanted to fish in troubled waters, and even did things that they usually wanted to do but didn't dare to do. Because at this time, the Kingayan Mountain Market had begun to be in chaos. Some people ran in all directions, some wanted to go to the explosion site to watch the excitement. All kinds of actions were displayed at this moment, making the whole market chaotic. Roars and shouts were heard continuously, and various complicated sounds were getting stronger and stronger. Especially those monks who were setting up stalls, all of them rolled up the animal skins or cloth spread on the ground with solemn faces, and looked around with fierce and threatening expressions while leaving, fearing that someone would take advantage of the chaos to target them. After all, the things that can be used to set up stalls must not be too bad, and once they are robbed, the loss will be great. Sure enough, someone suddenly took action in the chaos. A bright sword light suddenly flew out and slashed at a sturdy middle-aged monk. The sword light was extremely fast, and it arrived in front of the sturdy monk in the blink of an eye. The sturdy monk had empty hands, and it was obvious that he had put all the things he had sold at the stall into the storage bag. Perhaps it was because he was spotted because he had a storage bag that he was targeted at first sight. "How dare you!" the sturdy monk shouted angrily. He didn't expect that someone would dare to attack him. Facing the sword light that had already come in front of him, the sturdy monk's face flashed with a ferocious look. He didn't see any movement, and the next moment the sword light slashed down. Clang! A heavy spirit shield the size of a millstone appeared out of thin air and blocked the sturdy monk. The sword light slashed on the spirit shield, making a silent sound. Chapter 429 Chaos and Fighting. "How, you sly fellow dares to attack your Uncle Wang, come and die." After offering a spirit shield to block the sword light, the sturdy monk immediately smiled coldly. He stretched out his hand to the left and threw out more than 10 talismans. After more than 10 talismans were activated, they instantly turned into huge balls of fire and smashed directly towards the hooded black-robed man. Obviously, the sturdy monk found the attacker from the direction of the sword light. Boom! More than 10 balls of fire exploded suddenly, burning some surrounding buildings. But the hooded black-robed man had already disappeared on the spot, and the next moment he suddenly appeared behind the sturdy monk. Stay with me. The black-robed man put his index finger and middle finger together on his right hand, and a flying sword slashed out. At this time, 2 wrist-thick vines broke out of the ground and entangled directly towards the feet of the sturdy monk, as if to fix him in place. The sturdy monk's face changed slightly, and he shouted loudly, and kicked his feet hard on the ground, trying to break free from the restraints of the 2 vines. At the same time, the sturdy monk pinched his fingers with one hand and raised a talisman with the other hand. Buzz! The spiritual shield that was originally blocking him in front of him instantly swelled up in the wind, and after becoming the size of a bathtub, it firmly protected the back of the sturdy monk. Another talisman turned into dazzling golden light, which also enveloped the sturdy monk. It must be said that the sturdy monk's experience in fighting is really not bad. Facing the attack of the black-robed man, he quickly responded and offered 2 protective measures in an instant, appearing extremely calm. However, when he found that he could not immediately break free from the restraints of the 2 vines, his face changed slightly, and then he simply stopped moving, but turned around and waved his hands. "Want to keep me here? Then let's see if you have the ability." The sturdy monk's face was ferocious, and he was obviously furious. Since he couldn't break free for the time being, he might as well deal with his opponent first. The sturdy monk seemed very confident about his protection. He swung out a flying knife, and after the flying knife was sacrificed, it chopped down at the black-robed man. Ling. At this time, the sword light swung by the black-robed man was blocked by the spiritual shield. Seeing that the sturdy monk had a spiritual shield and a diamond talisman to protect his body, the black-robed man was also very straightforward. While waving a sword light to block the flying knife, the whole person shot away into the distance. Obviously, the black-robed man has realized that it is difficult to take down the sturdy monk in a short time. In this case, he will naturally not entangle with him anymore, but will decisively leave. "Humph, you run pretty fast." Seeing the black-robed man leave tactfully, the sturdy monk snorted coldly, but he still did not move, but instead glanced around viciously. West of the market, a young man with ordinary appearance but carrying a flying sword on his back, after discovering the turmoil in the market, stood there and thought for a while, then walked towards the south with a determined look. He walked quietly along the way, trying to avoid all the chaotic crowds. And when he found that the market was getting more and more chaotic, his eyes began to light up frighteningly. Soon he came to the Class C rental area, and then cast his eyes on the wooden house number 16. The young man looked around and found that no one noticed his actions. So he quietly approached and carefully sensed the door for a long time. Good, it's here. Hatred flashed in the young man's eyes. He raised his hand and threw out a talisman. The talisman instantly turned into a huge fireball and smashed towards the wooden house in front of him. It was the fireball talisman again. After offering the fireball talisman, the young man waited at the door like a stone, motionless, and restrained all his breath, like a statue. Boom! The fireball talisman directly blew up the wooden house, and flames and wood chips flew everywhere. Which Taoist friend attacked me? A roar came from the wooden house, and then a figure rushed towards the door. The young man waiting at the door twitched his lips, but did not reply at all. When the owner of the voice approached the door, he moved. Swish! The young man made a sword gesture with his hand, and the flying sword behind him responded. A cold light rushed straight to the face of the middle-aged man who rushed out of the wooden house. Ah! The middle-aged monk's face changed drastically, and he subconsciously made a bending action in panic. It is not known whether the middle-aged monk lacked experience in fighting or was not vigilant enough. He did not take any protection when he rushed out of the wooden house, and did not even activate a diamond talisman. The young man's eyes lit up instantly when he saw this scene, and his hands made a gesture again without hesitation. Swish! The cold light transformed by the plane was extremely flexible. Under the control of the young man, it immediately stopped the momentum of the stab, and then turned 90 degrees and stabbed straight down towards the heart of the middle-aged monk. This change almost made the middle-aged monk's soul fly away. When he wanted to respond, he found that it was too late. No puff. A sword tip went straight through the body and pierced the middle-aged monk directly. The middle-aged monk didn't even have time to scream, and looked at the young man at the door with great hatred in his eyes. Bang! The body of the middle-aged monk fell down with a bang. The hatred in the young man's eyes suddenly dissipated, and then he turned and left without hesitation. East of the city, 4 figures stood side by side, looking at the chaotic market and seemed extremely excited. The slightly short man on the far right couldn't help licking his lips and said excitedly, "Boss, do it." This man's name is Liao Quan, the 4th of the 4 evil spirits in Linang. The tall man on the far left also encouraged, "Boss, such a good opportunity can't be missed." This man's name is Liu Xian, the 3rd of the 4 evil spirits in Linang. "Yes, boss, it's time to do it." The 2nd of the Linang 4 devils, He Bo Qiang, also had his eyes shining. The 3 of them and the boss Xiao Zhang swore brotherhood in Linang Mountain a few years ago, and since then they were called the Linang 4 devils, doing robbery and bullying the weak. Compared with the real robbers, they don't have such a big burden and courage. Therefore, the Linang 4 devils are not well known to many people, otherwise it is hard to say whether they can get into the Qingyuan Mountain market. Originally, the 4 of them came to the Qingyuan Mountain market just to see if they could do a few votes, but who knew that they really encountered this good opportunity that they haven't seen in decades. Now even a fool can see that the market is in chaos. Don't you see all kinds of fire and smoke rising everywhere, and all kinds of cultivators are also trying to fish in troubled waters? Such a good opportunity, how could the Linang 4 devils let it go? The boss Xiao Zhang's eyes flashed with greed at this time, and he immediately decided, do it, take as much as you can. Chapter 430, Take Revenge and Fish in Troubled Waters. The chaotic market town, at this moment, became a fairy that seemed to be stripped naked in the eyes of many people. The original restless thoughts instantly turned into decisive actions. The Linang 4 evils were one of these actors. When they saw the chaos in the market town, and many people were already trying to fish in troubled waters, they knew that their chance had come. At this time, the Linang 4 evils were all wearing black robes, and at the request of the boss Xiao Zhang, they all put on a disguise mask. "Let's go!" The boss Xiao Zhang called out, and the 4 of them immediately ran straight to the Mingdan Pavilion in front. The 2nd and 3rd brothers are responsible for suppressing the people in the Mingdan Pavilion, and the 4th brother is responsible for looting the elixir materials. After the 2nd and 3rd brothers have dealt with the people inside the Mingdan Pavilion, they will also follow to loot, and leave together after the work is done. The boss Xiao Zhang gave instructions for their respective arrangements before rushing in. As for himself, he was naturally responsible for dealing with the master sitting in the Mingdan Pavilion. They had already inquired before that a small shop like Mingdan Pavilion did not have a powerful cultivator like Xianbao Pavilion. With the cultivation of the four of them all in the late stage of key training, it should be no problem to take down a Mingdan Pavilion. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The four Linyang evil spirits broke into the door at a very fast speed, and then ordered to act. Xiao Zhang stood still to guard the door, while the second brother He Boqiang and the third brother Liu Ziyun separated to the left and right and rushed towards the stunned servants. The fourth brother Liao Quan laughed wildly and rushed towards the pills placed behind the counter. Stop. Who are you? Stop it. Who dares to set your sights on my Mingdan Pavilion? There were not only a few servants inside, but also the shopkeeper and two pharmacists of Mingdan Pavilion. Although they were shocked by the action of Xiao Zhang and his four people breaking into the door, they reacted quickly, especially the shopkeeper, who scolded Xiao Zhang and his four people. At the same time, a strong aura also rushed quickly from the backyard of Mingdan Pavilion. Haha, I'm targeting your Mingdan Pavilion. The second oldest, He Boqiang, laughed nonchalantly, raised the flying sword in his hand and stabbed at the servants. Swish. The servants who were only practicing ki at the first or second level didn't even have the chance to dodge or scream, and were directly cut in half. The third oldest, Liu Ziyan, grinned and threw a few talismans at the shopkeeper and the two pharmacists. At the same time, he made a gesture with his hands, and more than 10 water arrows appeared out of thin air and stabbed at the three people of the shopkeeper. Not only that, after Liu Ziyan used the water arrow technique, he took out 9 flying needles from his arms, and the flying needles were driven by spiritual power and shot at the three people of the shopkeeper. Talismans, spells and magic tools, Liu Ziyan can be said to have all the means. The middle-aged shopkeeper's face changed immediately, and he didn't know how to deal with it in panic. He only had time to take out 2 Vajra talismans, and hurriedly activated the Vajra talismans to protect himself. The 2 pharmacists beside him were even more panicked, and they were so scared that they were stunned. Obviously, people like them who had no experience in fighting were extremely unbearable in the face of life and death crisis. After seeing this scene, the third brother Liu Ziyan just smiled with disdain, turned around and began to search for various elixirs. As expected, although the 2 layers of diamond talismans held up by the middle-aged shopkeeper blocked more than 10 water arrows, they could not block 9 sharp flying needles, and the 2 pharmacists beside him were directly pierced through the eyebrows and chest. At this time, Xiao Zhang laughed and greeted the master in charge of Mingdan Pavilion. He was a cultivator of the 9th level of key training, and his cultivation was equivalent to Xiao Zhang. Seeing Xiao Zhang and his 4 people break into the store unscrupulously to kill and rob, Yang Qi, who came from the backyard, was immediately furious. How dare you take advantage of the chaos to rob? Who are you? In a rage, Yang Qi raised a flying knife and chopped down at Xiao Zhang. He naturally saw that Xiao Zhang was the most skilled among the 4. If he didn't take Xiao Zhang down, he wouldn't be able to deal with the others. Xiao Zhang smiled and offered a flying sword to directly block Yang Kai's flying knife. Since the opponent was also a master, he only needed to hold him back. Therefore, no matter what means Yang Qi used, Xiao Zhang only maintained a defensive posture, holding Yang Qi back so that he couldn't turn around to deal with the others. Sure enough, a moment later, the 4th brother Liao Quan immediately shouted excitedly, "Haha, boss, we got everything." Okay. Xiao Zhang was refreshed and immediately ordered without hesitation, "Let's retreat." Since the things were already in hand, there was no need to stay any longer. "Thief, where are you going?" Yang Qi was extremely angry and stood up to stop the Linyang 4 evils. "Haha, fellow Taoist, you should stay." Xiao Zhang laughed and raised his hand, and more than 10 talismans were thrown out. Fireballs, water arrows, golden swords, etc., all blocked Yang Qi. Yang Qi was furious, but he could only watch Xiao Zhang and the other 4 leave arrogantly. The chaos in the market cannot be described in words. Some people took advantage of the chaos to kill people, some people took advantage of the chaos to fish in troubled waters, some people set fires everywhere, and some people rushed into shops crazily to rob and kill people. It was simply too chaotic. In short, the chaotic market seemed to have suddenly become a breeding ground for demons and monsters, and all those monsters jumped out. Wei Hong also witnessed several chaos with his own eyes, and even saw the battle between the strong monk and the black-robed man. Therefore, his sense of crisis also surged in his heart. "No, I can't stay outside any longer. I must return to the courtyard as soon as possible to open the protective formation. The chaotic market made Wei Hong feel insecure. Only when he returned to his own courtyard and opened the protective formation could he barely feel a sense of security, so he turned around and returned without hesitation. Along the way, Wei Hong was cautious and vigilant at the same time. He was not worried about being targeted by others, but worried about being affected by the fights of others. Fortunately, he was very careful to avoid all kinds of monks in chaotic places along the way, and no unexpected situation broke out. However, when he was halfway there, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a riot in the direction of the Talisman Workshop. Hey, what's going on? Is the Talisman Workshop also being targeted? Could it be Zhao Cheng and his group? Wei Hong was in doubt. He didn't expect that the Talisman Workshop was really caught in the storm. He looked over there carefully for a while and found that it was indeed the Talisman Workshop that was rioting, and it seemed that a big battle had broken out, with all kinds of sword sounds and roars. Wei Hong was glad that he had left the Talisman Workshop and was not caught in the storm. But he changed his mind and thought that Yamfeng must still be in the Talisman Workshop. No, I can't just go back like this. The great revenge has not been avenged. The old man Yamfeng will definitely not stay out of it this time. Maybe the opportunity I'm looking for is today. After Wei Hong thought carefully, his eyes became firm. He turned around resolutely and boldly ran straight towards the talisman-making workshop. Chapter 431, Rampant and Massacre. Wei Hong approached the talisman workshop cautiously. He used his full strength to perform the breath-retaining technique to restrain his own breath. At the same time, various talismans were ready to deal with any unexpected situations that might arise at any time. Since he chose to approach the talisman workshop at this time, he was naturally fully prepared. Moreover, Wei Hong knew that this might be his only chance for revenge. Once Yanfeng escaped, he might hide in Qingyuan Mountain and never come down again. So even though Wei Hong knew that the talisman workshop was extremely dangerous, he had to take the risk to approach it. Soon, he quietly came to an alley on the side of the talisman workshop. It was not far from the talisman workshop, and the location was relatively remote. Wei Hong stepped lightly and jumped directly onto the roof of a house. Swish! After jumping onto the roof, his vision suddenly became wide and clear. Boom! Whoosh! Whoosh! Before he could see the situation inside the talisman workshop clearly, Wei Hong heard various explosions and the sound of magic weapons breaking through the air. There were also all kinds of wanton laughter and miserable wails, as if someone was being brutally tortured. Wei Hong immediately looked over and saw clearly what was happening in the talisman workshop. The talisman workshop was already ablaze, and many workshops were blown down by the aftermath of the explosion or the battle. At this time, Wei Hong could clearly see that there were 7 or 8 robbers wearing black robes, blood-red cloaks, and eagle-style masks in the talisman workshop, killing people. Such uniform clothing made people know at a glance that they were definitely Blood Eagle robbers. Wei Hong's face was also slightly condensed. Sure enough, the talisman workshop has long been targeted by the Blood Eagle. I don't know if they came here specifically for the talisman workshop or just for fun. He looked solemn and searched carefully, and then his eyes immediately locked onto a figure. Hey, Zhao Cheng is here too. It seems that this is true. After discovering Zhao Cheng's figure, Wei Hong knew that this must be a plan that the Blood Eagle robber cultivator had already made, and fortunately he left the talisman workshop in advance. He didn't know that it was because of his action of leaving the talisman workshop that Zhao Cheng decided to launch this action in advance, which led to the scene Wei Hong saw now. Wei Hong crouched on the roof, only revealing a pair of eyes to quietly observe the situation in the talisman workshop. At this time, the 7 or 8 robbery cultivators inside the talisman workshop all held a 10,000 souls banner. They kept waving the 10,000 souls banner, and every time they waved it, it brought a gust of cold wind and whimpering. A large number of little ghosts kept flying out of the 10,000 souls banner, and rushed directly to the skinners or talisman masters in the talisman workshop with shrill laughter. Help! Help me! A skinner was bitten by 3 little ghosts, and his blood was sucked continuously. He was powerless to resist and could only utter shrill wail and scream. Unfortunately, everyone in the talisman workshop was busy with their own affairs and had no spare energy to save him. Therefore, in just over 10 breaths, the skinner was bitten to death by the 3 little ghosts. At the same time, those Blood Eagle robbers also brought various puppets and spirit beasts. Bang bang bang. A puppet giant tiger was in the talisman workshop as if it was in an empty space, constantly attacking back and forth. Skinners were constantly torn into pieces by this puppet giant tiger, and blood and flesh were everywhere. A firebird flew in the air, and sprayed a fireball wherever it saw a living person. I guess most of the blazing flames in the talisman workshop should be the credit of this firebird. 7 or 8 Blood Eagle robbery cultivators blocked the surroundings of the talisman workshop, waving the 10,000 souls banner and controlling puppets and spirit beasts to kill the targets at will, causing screams inside the talisman workshop. Quick, kill them quickly, you can't stay any longer. Zhu Ziqiang wiped the blood off his face, his eyes full of panic and despair. No one expected that in such a safe place in the market, even the talisman workshop would be attacked. This was beyond everyone's expectations. So when those Blood Eagle robbery cultivators suddenly came to kill, the people who didn't have much experience in fighting had no power to resist. In just one encounter, a large number of skinners were killed or injured. When those robbery cultivators began to release puppets and spirit beasts and wave the 10,000 souls banner, the situation became more and more desperate. The enemy's strength was not something they could resist. Fortunately, Zhu Ziqiang and other talisman masters were not without means. After they reacted, they immediately huddled together. They were talisman masters and had accumulated a lot of talismans. Therefore, Zhu Ziqiang and his companions, relying on the talismans in their hands, initially blocked the offensive of those robbers and did not lose any members. However, when those robbers noticed the resistance of Zhu Ziqiang and his companions, they immediately increased their offensive. Among them, at least 4 10,000 souls banners were used to greet them, and there were more than 20 puppets and 7 or 8 spirit beasts, which tightly surrounded them, making Zhu Ziqiang and his companions miserable. Lu Fang's face was pale, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Kill them? How? We don't have many talismans in our hands. It's good enough that we can barely protect ourselves. Who has the spare energy to kill them? We must break through." Zhu Ziqiang gritted his teeth and said viciously, "These robbers are definitely here for money. Their target is not us at all. As long as we can break through, I believe they will not chase us one by one, and there are only 7 or 8 of them." It must be said that Zhu Ziqiang's judgment was indeed reasonable, and the talisman masters behind him nodded, obviously agreeing with his judgment. The most important thing is that since the attack on the talisman workshop, their manager and the other 2 masters in charge have been directly targeted by the enemy, so that they can't get any support at all. If they don't leave, they will really miss the last chance. "Let's go," Zhu Ziqiang called out to the talisman masters. Then the talisman masters fled in all directions and broke out of the encirclement. Whoosh! Whoosh! Rumble! All kinds of talismans hit the surroundings. Fireball talismans, water arrow talismans, falling stone talismans, golden sword talismans, ground thorn talismans, vine talismans. More than 10 or 20 talisman masters attacked together, and the talismans thrown around were definitely countless. The huge momentum even frightened several Blood Eagle robbery cultivators around, and they hurriedly waved the 10,000 souls banner to intercept those talisman masters. However, the power of hundreds of offensive talismans exploded in an instant, and even hundreds of little ghosts and those puppet spirit beasts could not stop them, and they were directly rushed to pieces. Zhu Ziqiang and others seized this opportunity to break out of the talisman workshop. "Don't worry about them, just do your best to break through the warehouse first." Seeing this scene, the leading robbery cultivator made a decision immediately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432 God helps me. Tisk, Lao Lu and the others are really lucky. Seeing that Zhu Ziqiang, Lu Feng and others were able to escape, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh secretly. It was just that the more than 20 talisman masters were able to escape, but the remaining skinners and leather makers fell into despair. First, their cultivation was low. Second, they had no experience in fighting and no powerful means. So facing the rampant killing of a large number of little ghosts and puppet spirit beasts, the skinners screamed and died. Wei Hong lay on the roof and watched the Blood Eagle tribulation cultivators continue to slaughter wantonly. Although there was a little bit of reluctance in his eyes, he would not do anything that was disadvantageous to himself because of sympathy, so he remained motionless. Haha, kill them all. Zhao Chang's face was full of hideousness, and he laughed wildly. It seemed that slaughtering these low-level cultivators could make them feel great excitement and pleasure. The other few Blood Eagle Tribulation cultivators also laughed grimly, and continued to slaughter the skinners whose resistance was getting weaker and weaker. Boom! Soon, a loud noise came from the direction of the workshop warehouse. Okay, the warehouse has been breached, let's go in and search the warehouse. An excited shout made the Blood Eagle Tribulation cultivators excited. Haha, let's go. Quick, quick, let's see what good things are in the warehouse. That's right, haha, I'll go in and take a look too. After the 7 or 8 Blood Eagle Tribulation cultivators slaughtered all the skinners, they immediately rushed to the workshop warehouse. Wei Hong watched from a distance, with no intention of getting close. Damn, they were all slaughtered? These tribulation cultivators are really cruel. Wei Hong's face was ugly, and he was also a little shocked. He didn't expect that the Talisman Workshop was taken down like this, and except for Zhu Ziqiang and others who broke out, the rest of the people were all slaughtered. It was really miserable. The warehouse has been breached, and Yanfeng is nowhere to be found. It seems that this Talisman Workshop is finished. Looking at the breached Talisman Workshop, Wei Hong frowned. He did not see Yanfeng's figure, and he didn't know whether he escaped directly or hid. I wanted to come here to take revenge, but Yanfeng didn't show up, so Wei Hong didn't know whether to continue observing or leave immediately. Just as he was hesitating, Yu Guangzhong suddenly found a figure quietly jumping out of the side door of the Talisman Workshop. Huh? Wei Hong's eyes lit up. He didn't expect the surprise to come so suddenly. Because he found that the figure was very familiar. It was obviously Yanfeng, who he had always wanted to find but had never found. Wei Hong immediately looked at it intently, locking his eyes on the figure. He found that Yanfeng had escaped from nowhere at this time. His figure was a little embarrassed. He was a little staggering when he escaped from the Talisman Workshop, and there was even some blood at the corner of his mouth. Wei Hong stared at Yanfeng's fleeing figure, and wondered in his heart, where did Yanfeng come from? Why didn't I see any trace of him just now? Wei Hong didn't know that he actually came a little late and didn't see the scene where Yanfeng was led away by someone, so he didn't see Yanfeng's figure just now. It's just that Yanfeng didn't know what means he used. Although he was seriously injured, he managed to escape successfully, and he didn't alarm other robber cultivators. Haha, God really helps me. Wei Hong was ecstatic. He was ready to give up, but he didn't expect Yanfeng to come to him. Wei Hong didn't care how Yanfeng escaped. He just knew that his chance had come. After Yanfeng escaped from the Talisman Workshop, he looked back from time to time. Obviously, he was a little worried that the Blood Eagle robber cultivator would track him down, so he didn't realize that someone had already stared at him not far away. Wei Hong quietly moved and followed him carefully. He held back all his breath, fearing that he would be noticed by Yanfeng. Wei Hong found that the direction Yanfeng fled happened to be a hidden alley, which could avoid possible eyes as much as possible. But this was more in line with Wei Hong's mind. He quietly quickened his pace, locked onto Yanfeng's whereabouts and went around from the side. Then he quietly approached and launched a sneak attack before Yanfeng noticed. Swish! Dozens of talismans were thrown at Yanfeng all at once. More than 10 huge fireballs and more than 10 blue sharp water arrows all enveloped Yanfeng's body, and then slammed down fiercely. At the same time, several vines as thick as arms but covered with barbed thorns broke out of the ground and instantly wrapped around Yanfeng's legs, making him unable to move. Not only that, 4 wooden walls covered with barbs appeared around Yanfeng, blocking all 4 directions for Yanfeng to dodge and escape, with the intention of making him have no escape. Who? Yanfeng was shocked and asked subconsciously. Although he put most of his mind on the direction behind him, he was always vigilant, so he reacted as soon as he was attacked and responded at the same time. He stretched out his hand with a face full of shock and anger, and a golden light slashed out. At the same time, he pinched his hands, and a layer of azure light completely covered it. Yanfeng kept moving, took out 2 talismans and slapped them on his body. One is a first-class medium-quality magic talisman, and the other is a first-class medium-quality giant power talisman. The magic talisman can greatly increase his speed, and the giant power talisman can double Yanfeng's strength. The golden flying sword turned into golden light, and when it slashed across the 4 wooden walls, it failed to directly cut the wooden walls, but only left a not shallow or deep cut. Yanfeng obviously underestimated Wei Hong's wooden wall technique. After being blessed by the giant power talisman at the same time, Yanfeng exerted force with both feet, but found that he could not break free from the restraints of the two vines. Instead, his feet were pierced by the barbed thorns and bled. The failure of the flying sword and the giant power talisman made Yanfeng's face change drastically. At this time, the dozens of talismans had already smashed down fiercely. Boom! The blue light shield covering Yanfeng's head was shaky and about to break. Yanfeng's eyelids twitched wildly. He didn't expect his protection to be so fragile. But Wei Hong didn't give him a chance to react. 4 sharp-headed and thick-tailed wooden spikes appeared out of thin air and stabbed at Yanfeng fiercely. At the same time, several golden threads cut across. Puff! The azure light shield was directly broken, and the remaining fireballs and water arrows blasted at Yanfeng again. Yanfeng's face suddenly changed. When he was about to take something out of the storage bag, the golden thread flashed by, and the whole person suddenly froze in place. The next moment, Yanfeng was split in half as if he was cut in half. The 4 wooden spikes stabbed fiercely into the body that was split into 2 halves, leaving 4 blood holes as big as bowls. Bang! Yanfeng's upper body fell down with a bang. Until his death, Yanfeng's eyes still revealed endless unwillingness and disbelief. Chapter 433, Revenge is achieved, unexpected gain. Success in 1 strike. In order to attack Yanfeng, Wei Hong used all his means except the black sword. Various talismans were thrown down, and the wood thorn technique, wooden wall technique, green wood entanglement technique and Zhengjin Lingxi Ju were performed in succession. In fact, if it was Yanfeng in his prime, even if he did not use his ultimate means, it would not be difficult to block Wei Hong's attacks. After all, his cultivation was 2 levels higher than Wei Hong. But Wei Hong dared to attack him because he saw that Yanfeng was seriously injured. Since Yanfeng was already seriously injured, it would be good if he could maintain half of his strength. In fact, as Wei Hong expected, Yanfeng paid the price of serious injury for escaping from the talisman workshop. His strength was less than half, and his own trump cards were almost exhausted, so he was so passive when facing Wei Hong's sneak attack. And there are 3 most important factors for Wei Hong to succeed in 1 strike. First, the surprise attack. Second, the connection between the control spell and the attack talisman was continuous, which made Yanfeng unable to react and unable to resist. The protective light shield was broken at the first sight. Third, Wei Hong's spells had reached the realm of great success, and their power and effect far exceeded ordinary spells, especially the silk thread of Zhengjin Lingxi Ju, which was both sharp and hidden. With the cooperation of these 3 factors, plus Wei Hong's full strength attack, he naturally succeeded in 1 blow and successfully killed the seriously injured Yanfeng. Seeing that Yanfeng was dead, Wei Hong was delighted and quickly came to the body. He immediately reached out and collected all the storage bag and things in Yanfeng's arms. Great revenge has been avenged, and there are unexpected gains. Not bad, not bad, it's time to go back. Wei Hong couldn't hide his excitement. With Yanfeng's wealth, he would definitely make a fortune this time. Wei Hong temporarily suppressed his excitement and prepared to return to the courtyard immediately. But when he was about to leave, his face suddenly changed. Because not far in front of him, a young robber cultivator wearing a black robe and a blood-red cape walked out slowly with his arms folded across his chest. Wei Hong was startled. He didn't expect that he was so busy collecting spoils that he ignored the approach of the enemy. He was very upset about such a low-level mistake. But now is not the time to think about these things. Looking at the robber cultivator who appeared in front of him, Wei Hong took a deep breath and said in a solemn voice with a vigilant face, "My fellow Taoist, I have no intention of fighting with you. Why don't you do me a favor and we will retreat?" As Wei Hong spoke, he carefully moved back and took out more than 10 talismans with both hands. He stared at the other party and didn't dare to relax even a little. While showing his strength, he also showed weakness to the other party, hoping to avoid a fight. However, the robber cultivator sneered disdainfully, "You stole my prey, and you want to leave so easily. Don't waste your time, hand over the Jade Pass token on Yanfeng to me, and I can consider leaving you with an intact body." Wei Hong frowned, not expecting that the other party not only recognized Yanfeng, but also wanted something in Yanfeng's hand, which made Wei Hong's idea of leaving peacefully completely shattered. And seeing that the other party looked like he didn't take him seriously at all, it was obvious that he thought he had Wei Hong in his grasp. It was precisely because of this that the young robber cultivator did not hide his cultivation at all, and he was at the 6th level of key training, 2 levels higher than Wei Hong. No wonder he was so confident. My fellow Taoist, Wei Hong said expressionlessly, I don't know what the past J token you are talking about is. I don't want to fight with you, and I believe you don't want to be taken advantage of by others, right? Ha ha ha. The young robbery cultivator seemed to have heard a big joke, and laughed uncontrollably. A fisherman takes advantage? Haha, you? A mere casual cultivator of the 4th level of key training? Haha, do you want to make me laugh to death? However, the young robbery cultivator seemed to be laughing, but there was no smile in his eyes. Instead, he was full of coldness and looked at Wei Hong as if he was looking at a dead person. Wei Hong naturally knew that he had been bumped into by this robbery cultivator, and it was absolutely impossible for him to let him go. Therefore, the wisest choice was to quickly deal with the other party and leave this place immediately. He sighed quietly in his heart, and was obviously ready to use his trump card. The young robber cultivator seemed to have seen Wei Hong's intention. He stopped laughing and stared at Wei Hong. I will give you another chance. Don't do anything tricky. Give me Yanfeng's storage bag. You'd better not try to escape, let alone attack me, otherwise you will die ugly. The young robber cultivator walked slowly towards Wei Hong step by step, and the momentum of the 6th level of key training directly pressed over. Wei Hong's thoughts turned rapidly, but his body did not move. He didn't know what the other party was talking about, nor did he know what the other party wanted the jade plate for. But he knew that the young robber cultivator would never let him go if he couldn't get the jade plate. Besides, this place is not too far from the talisman workshop, and the other party's companions may come to support at any time. Faced with such a situation, Wei Hong could only grit his teeth and make up his mind. He suddenly raised his head and asked with a smile, okay, will you let me go after I give you the storage bag? Impossible. The young robbery cultivator shook his head lightly and sneered, no matter what you do, I will get the storage bag. If you are smart, I will leave you a whole body. Ta ta ta. The young robbery cultivator walked forward step by step, and he already held a flying sword and a 10,000 souls banner in his hands. He could look down on the enemy, but he would not be careless. As long as Wei Hong made a slight move, he would be able to respond immediately. He believed that with the advantage of his flying sword and the help of the 10,000 souls banner, he could block even a cultivator in the late stage of key training. Wei Hong pretended to bow his head and hesitated for a while, then raised his head and said, okay, I hope you keep your promise. Okay, the young robbery cultivator was about to agree, but saw a hideous look on Wei Hong's face. You'd better go down and obey. Wei Hong's face was as cold as frost, and a black sword appeared in his hand out of thin air, and then he held a black sword and swung it fiercely at the young robbery cultivator, and a black streak instantly slashed out. You. The young GXIU's face suddenly changed after he felt the terrifying power of the black sword. However, he was only a few feet away from Wei Hong, and the speed of the black silk was as fast as lightning, so he had no time to respond at all. He could only subconsciously hold the plane in his hand horizontally in front of him. Puff. Clang. A blood arrow flew into the air, and the 2 halves of the broken sword fell to the ground. The young GXIU was directly cut into 2 pieces by a sword. He couldn't believe that he would die at the hands of a 4th level key training cultivator until his death. After swinging the sword, Wei Hong's face turned slightly pale, then he put away the black sword and immediately stepped forward 2 steps, grabbed the storage bag on the young GXIU, and then left the scene quickly without looking back. Chapter 434 Yellow Dragon Pill, 10,000 Souls Banner. After an instant of time, Wei Hong returned to the small courtyard he rented safely. The first thing he did when he returned to the small courtyard was to immediately activate the water mist formation with all his strength. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, and then said to himself, finally back, damn it, if it weren't for the black sword, I might have really fallen today. Thinking of the identity of the young robbery cultivator he killed, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile bitterly. Fortunately, there was no one else around when he killed the robbery cultivator, so he didn't have to worry about being exposed. He didn't care whether the young robbery cultivator underestimated the enemy or not. Anyway, he survived and the other party died, which was enough. To be honest, this trip to the talisman workshop was indeed risky. If Wei Hong hadn't been decisive enough and his trump card was strong enough, this time it might have been really dangerous. Although this time it was a bit risky, the harvest was definitely rich, and it was worth the risk. Thinking of the 2 storage bags he took from Yanfeng and the young robber cultivator, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel excited. Although he had not checked the contents of the 2 storage bags, he believed that this time the harvest would definitely not be small. As the manager of the talisman workshop, Yanfeng began to accept bribes as soon as he took office. He might also secretly intercept a part of the talismans every month. Adding his own original savings, it is absolutely impossible to say that it is not rich. Wei Hong has even begun to look forward to it. As for the young robber cultivator, as a member of the Blood Eagle, he has looted so many things and killed so many cultivators. It is impossible to say that there are no good things in his storage bag. After the adventure, it's time to see my spoils. Wei Hong couldn't bear it. After sitting cross-legged on the bed, he immediately took out the 2 storage bags. One is gray-black, and the other is pure black. Wei Hong first picked up the gray-black storage bag, which was searched from Yanfeng. After opening the storage bag, Wei Hong opened the bag mouth downwards and shook it gently. Crash! A lot of things fell directly from the storage bag and piled up like a small mountain in front of Wei Hong. Haha, not bad, not bad, you are worthy of being the manager of the talisman workshop. With just one look, Wei Hong knew that this time's harvest was definitely not cheap. Because in that small mountain, the glittering spiritual stones accounted for more than half. Wei Hong did not mind the trouble. He first picked all the spiritual stones to one side and roughly counted them. There were more than 680 spiritual stones in total. Tisk Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up. Looking at the pile of spiritual stones, he couldn't help but sigh. It's really generous. There are almost 700 spiritual stones alone. Haha, this time I'm really rich. After putting the pile of spiritual stones into his storage bag, he continued to check other things. Apart from the spiritual stones, Yanfeng's storage bag had more than 10 or 20 items left. The first was more than 10 bottles of elixirs. Wei Hong opened those elixirs one by one and poured them out. Bilingdan? Not bad, just what I need. Yang Yuan Dan? Not bad either. Hey, there's also Zhangqi Dan? It seems that all the elixirs for the late stage of key training are available. This is Ningshan Dan? Good stuff. And this one, it seems to be Wang Long Dan? Wow, they're all good stuff. Wei Hong poured out more than 10 bottles of elixirs one by one and carefully identified them. He found that except for a bottle of Ningshan Dan, the remaining 12 bottles of elixirs were all elixirs that promoted the growth of cultivation. Among them, there was 1 bottle of Biling Dan, which should be the leftover of Yanfeng. There were 4 bottles of Yang Yuan Dan and Zhangqi Dan, and 3 bottles of Wang Long Dan. Wang Long Dan is a kind of elixir that is more expensive than Zhangqi Dan and more suitable for cultivators in the late stage of key training. The reason why Wei Hong recognized it was because he had seen it in the treasure pavilion. Looking at the more than 10 bottles of pills in front of him, Wei Hong smiled happily. Haha, isn't this just a pillow that hits me when I doze off? These more than 10 bottles of pills alone are worth hundreds of spirit stones, which is enough for me to use for a long time. For Wei Hong, these more than 10 bottles of pills that can promote the growth of cultivation are even more valuable than the pile of spirit stones just now, and are more important to him. With those pills, it is enough for him to practice to the 5th level of key training. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Wei Hong continued to check. The second is 2 thick stacks of talismans, and they are all first-level medium-quality talismans, fireball talismans, water arrow talismans, golden sword talismans, etc. There are all kinds of talismans, and most of them are offensive talismans. Damn it, it's a good thing that I didn't let that old dog Yanfeng use these talismans, otherwise I really can't take him down. Looking at the more than 200 talismans of various types, Wei Hong couldn't hide his feelings. If it weren't for his unexpected sneak attack, which took down Yanfeng in a lightning-fast manner, if Yanfeng had really caught his breath, the outcome of this battle would be hard to say. In addition to the elixir and talismans, the rest were a few magic weapons, mostly flying swords and flying knives. Although they didn't bring much surprise to Wei Hong, they were enough to upgrade the flying sword in his hand. It must be said that Yanfeng actually had a lot of trump cards. It's just that he didn't have the time and opportunity to use them at all. He was killed by Wei Hong without care. No wonder he died so unwillingly, and even died with his eyes open. Finally, there were a few materials. Wei Hong couldn't recognize what they were, so he could only put them away temporarily and identify them later. After putting away all the things in Yanfeng's storage bag, Wei Hong opened another pure black storage bag. Hualala. Just like before, a lot of things poured out of the storage bag. Even the savings and collections of the young robbery cultivator were more diverse than Yanfeng. Haha, there are more than 500 spirit stones, not bad, not bad, adding up to more than 1,100 spirit stones. It seems that there is no need to worry about spirit stones for the time being. Wei Hong sorted out the spirit stones first, and was very happy after counting them. Apart from other things, the spirit stones he searched from Yanfeng and the young robber cultivator alone were already extremely rich. What's more, in addition to the spirit stones, there was also a magic weapon that surprised Wei Hong. Is this the 10,000 souls banner? Is it the magic weapon that each blood eagle has? Picking up the palm-sized 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong's eyes flashed. This 10,000 souls banner is undoubtedly a good thing, but Wei Hong absolutely dared not show it in front of others. Once Blood Eagle knew about it, he would be in endless trouble. Even if I don't take it out to fight the enemy, it is still a powerful means. Haha, very good. There are quite a few elixirs, talismans and magic weapons in this storage bag. After sorting out all the things, Wei Hong was even more excited. This time his harvest was extremely rich. As long as he digested these spoils well, it would be enough to take his combat power to a higher level and allow him to break through to the 5th level of key training as soon as possible. Wei Hong was extremely satisfied when he thought of this. Chapter 435 Search and Clean Up. The next day Wei Hong woke up from his meditation, listened quietly for a while, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. It's finally over. I don't know what will happen next. King Guy Insect will probably clean up the market. When he thought of what King Guy Insect might do next, he smiled slightly. But it had nothing to do with him, and he was too lazy to think about it. Last night, he did not devote himself to cultivation, but kept alert and kept an eye on the situation outside. After he returned to the courtyard, he found that the turmoil outside did not end immediately, but lasted for a long time, and it was only in the second half of the night that it slowly calmed down. It was not known whether the patrol team of King Guy Insect went out to eliminate the Blood Eagle robbers, or whether the robbers withdrew after achieving their goal. In short, all this had nothing to do with him, and the unexpected situation he was worried about did not happen. In this way, the turmoil in the market was calmed down. After all, King Guy Insect was not made of clay, and it was impossible for them to let a few robbers wreak havoc on the market without doing anything. However, he had not yet learned about the subsequent results of those robbers. Now that it has calmed down, let's go out and take a look. Wei Hong stood up and prepared to go out to see what was going on outside. But before he could reach the door, there was a knock on the door. Open the door, the patrol is checking, open the door quickly. A slightly impatient voice came from outside the door. Wei Hong frowned slightly, and a look of vigilance flashed across his face. After thinking for a while, he did not make any move, but stepped forward and gently opened the door. Excuse me. Wei Hong asked softly after opening the door. Fellow Taoist, excuse me. A patrol monk casually bowed and said, it's a routine inspection, please cooperate with me. There were a total of 3 patrol monks outside the door, and the one who spoke was a middle-aged man. Wei Hong stepped aside and asked, there is definitely no problem with cooperation. I want to ask, what happened last night? Wei Hong pretended that he had not gone out and did not know anything about what happened last night. The patrolling monks did not suspect anything, because most people in the market were like that, so the middle-aged monk walked into the courtyard and began to search. While answering, there were thieves in the market last night, and they disturbed the order of the market. Now we are ordered to search, don't ask any more questions. Wei Hong nodded slightly and said no more. After the patrol members searched the independent courtyard where Wei Hong was, they left directly after finding nothing unusual. Wei Hong accompanied them throughout the whole process and then sent them out. After the patrol members left, Wei Hong also walked out of the courtyard. As expected, several neighbors around were also chatting near the door at this time. Dao Iaguan, haha, you are out too. A middle-aged man in a blue robe, carrying a magic sword and a Taoist bun on his head saw Wei Hong appear and couldn't help but greet him warmly. This person called himself Jin Doran, a Taoist who was a 5th level key training Taoist. Fellow Taoist Guan, you were also checked, right? Haha, I'm relieved to see that fellow Taoist Guan is fine. The other 3 people next to Taoist Jin also greeted Wei Hong. Among them was a gorgeous female cultivator wearing a goose yellow palace skirt, named Chen Yan, and the other two were a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance and a sturdy young cultivator. The middle-aged man was named Wei Hong, and the young cultivator was named Qianlin. These four people were neighbors that Wei Hong got to know well after moving in, and they would occasionally chat with each other. Haha, Guan has met a few fellow Daoists. Wei Hong came over after hearing the voice and responded politely. Then he smiled and asked, "Why, you were also checked?" "More than that," the young cultivator Qianlin said quickly, "Qingyuan sect has dispatched a large number of patrol members. They started searching door to door before dawn. No one can escape." "Searching door to door?" Wei Hong said to himself that as expected, Qingyuan sect really started to act as he expected. However, Wei Hong still pretended to know nothing, frowned and asked, "Do the four Taoist friends know what happened last night?" Guan only knows that there was a chaos in the market last night, and Guan was so scared that he didn't dare to show his head all night. Haha, Taoist Guan, you are joking. Who doesn't hide in his own yard and dare not show his head? Taoist Jin laughed, and then explained, "But as for the cause of this incident, I have already found out clearly. It is said that a group of Blood Eagle robbers sneaked into the market last night, and then smashed, looted and burned in the market. Even the talisman workshop was broken into, the new manager was slaughtered, and the workshop warehouse was looted. The loss was huge. At the same time, the chaos in the market also made many daring people have the idea of stealing, so many people took advantage of the situation, or followed the smashing, looting and burning, causing the whole market to riot for a whole night. Haha, you don't know, the owners of those shops that were robbed and smashed were completely affected by the disaster, and the loss was terrible." Taoist Jin started laughing as he spoke, and it was unclear whether he was gloating. However, from his words, Wei Hong and the others understood what happened last night. No wonder there was such a big commotion. Wei Hong sighed with fear on his face. "Fortunately, Guan is not very curious, otherwise I don't know what I would have encountered. Haha, Taoist Guan's move is exactly what I want. We just need to take care of ourselves, why should we care about others?" Wei Hong immediately praised with a smile. At this time, the gorgeous female cultivator Chen Yan suddenly asked, "Fellow Taoist Jin, did Qingyuan sect send so many patrol members to search the market town to find the group of Blood Eagle robbers?" "Yes, that's right." Taoist Jin's face suddenly became solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "So that fellow Daoists know that the group of robbers who ravaged the market town last night were not caught, but used the second-level array-breaking talisman to break through the market town's protective array after success, and then escaped. So those patrols searched door to door to check if there were any remnants of robbers left. But fellow Daoists, don't worry, since it has been checked, I believe there should be no problem." After listening, Wei Hong nodded thoughtfully, and finally got the news he wanted. He didn't expect that a group of Blood Eagle robbers could actually break through the protective array and escape. Considering that there was no high-level cultivator to suppress the robbers' rebellion this time, it seemed quite strange, and Wei Hong had many bad guesses in his mind. Chen Yan asked in surprise, "Remnants?" Chapter 436 The True Identity of Blood Eagle GXIU. "Yes, remnants." Taoist Jin nodded affirmatively. Wei Hong only then noticed the key words Taoist Jin said to Chen Yan, and was surprised. "Remnants? What remnants? Is it the group of robbery cultivators?" Wei Hong was full of doubts. At this moment, some of Wei Hong's guesses became clearer. Taoist Jin glanced at Wei Hong, and then said faintly, "Yes, it is the group of Blood Eagle robbery cultivators. They are not real robbery cultivators, but the remnants of the Qingyuan sect who betrayed the sect back then. Later, under the integration of leader Ling Ji, they formed the current Blood Eagle. Do you know why the Blood Eagles were in chaos last night, but the masters who were in charge of the market did not show up? It was because Ling Ji played a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain, so they were able to run rampant in the market." Next, Taoist Jin told him the information he knew about the Blood Eagles in detail. It turned out that last night, the leader of the Blood Eagle, Ling Ji, played a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. He sent people to lead away all the masters in the market. He also showed up in person to attract the attention of the Qingyuan sect, and then sent people to sneak into the market to launch the plan. This is why no high-level cultivators showed up to suppress the robbers last night. It was not until this time that all the conjectures in Wei Hong's mind suddenly became clear. It turned out to be just as I guessed. No wonder, the Blood Eagle is really not simple. Wei Hong felt very sad in his heart, and he became more afraid of the Blood Eagle. He couldn't let people know that a member of the Blood Eagle fell into his hands, otherwise there would be endless troubles. After hearing this information, Shenlin was full of emotion. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect that even a group of robbers had unusual identities, and they also caused such heavy losses to the Qingyuan Mountain market. It's really amazing. Who said it wasn't? Jia Heng also echoed on the side. After the battle last night, the entire market suffered heavy losses, not to mention that even the talisman workshop was burned down, and various shops have become more deserted. Maybe many people don't dare to stay here anymore. You say, that group of robbers didn't go to the talisman workshop? Why didn't they go to other workshops? Chen Yan also threw out her own guess at this time. Wei Hong narrowed his eyes and glanced at Chen Yan without leaving a trace. Chen Yan may not know that her guess is probably correct. If she knew that Zhao Cheng disguised himself and sneaked into the talisman workshop, she might be more certain. When checking the spoils, Wei Hong naturally saw the past jade token that the young robber wanted to find in his hands. It was a palm-sized white jade plate with complicated patterns on both sides. There was a word on the jade plate that Wei Hong didn't recognize, but it didn't look unusual. Wei Hong studied it carefully, but still couldn't see the mystery. He still didn't know what the past jade plate was for, but he knew very well that it must not be shown to others, otherwise it would lead to unimaginable serious consequences. Yes, the whole market seems to be much quieter. It seems that even the Qingyuan sect is not necessarily safe. Wei Hong also pretended to sigh. In fact, deep in his heart, he was feeling extremely fortunate at this time. He was very glad that he decisively chose to leave the talisman workshop, otherwise he might have been completely involved in the storm that broke out in the talisman workshop last night. The world of immortal cultivation is really dangerous everywhere. If you are not careful, you may fall and die. Wei Hong sighed secretly. Taoist Jin smiled and said, haha, fellow Taoists, don't think so. We are not involved and are safe now. Isn't that good? As for whether the market is quiet or not, what does it have to do with us? Haha, what Taoist Jin said makes sense. We can't care so much. Jia Heng also laughed, and didn't seem to be affected at all. As for Wei Hong and the other two, they smiled slightly and didn't say anything to agree. But Wei Hong thought that Taoist Jin was right in one sentence, that is, they were not involved and were safe now, which was the best news for him. The extremely rich spoils he harvested last night were enough for him to practice hard for a while. Since the market and the outside were not really calm yet, he naturally focused on practicing hard. Besides, he didn't have to worry about the spirit stones now, and it didn't matter whether he accepted the task or not. Wei Hong and the others chatted for a while, and exchanged some information with each other before they dispersed. Wei Hong didn't return to the courtyard immediately. He stood there and thought about it, then walked towards the market. He wanted to see what the market looked like after the riot. At this time, the whole market was like the sea after a rainstorm, becoming extremely calm, which made people quite uncomfortable. Wei Hong walked along and found that the interior of the market was indeed much quieter than before. The crowded crowds coming and going were reduced by more than half, and the sound of bargaining in the market was almost non-existent. Only a few stalls were still there, and the scenes of people constantly coming in and out of the major shops in the past had become deserted. Several restaurants were also empty, and he even saw more than a dozen shops organizing people to repair them, and some were counting the goods. Obviously the losses were not small. There were not many pedestrians on the streets, and all the scenes showed the withering and desolation of the market. Wei Hong looked at the scene in front of him, frowned slightly and sighed. This turmoil has completely damaged the vitality of the Qingyuan Mountain market. It will take at least a year or two to recover. He didn't know why the Qingyuan sect had such a big mistake, so that the market under the jurisdiction of the Qingyuan sect suffered such a huge loss. This was not a problem he should consider. He just wanted to go back and practice hard. Since the talisman workshop has been destroyed and even the warehouse has been looted, then I must not use my original identity anymore, so as not to arouse the suspicion of the Qingyuan sect. Wei Hong began to think carefully in his heart. Since he had already left the talisman workshop, and he believed that everyone in the talisman workshop should think that he was dead or disabled, at least everyone in the workshop knew that he was backfired by the spiritual contract, so Wei Hong's identity as a talisman painter was absolutely not suitable for him to appear again. At least in the short term he could not show up in his original appearance. That's good. Fortunately, I have prepared a second identity. It doesn't have any impact. It's a good thing for me. After carefully considering the pros and cons, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. He decided to give up his old identity and choose to continue living in the market as Guan Yu, the Formation Master. Chapter 437, Transforming the 10,000 Souls Banner. Wei Hong sat cross-legged. With his eyes closed, he kept practicing King Muju. Since yesterday, he has entered a state of hard training. Without paying attention to any situation in the outside world, Wei Hong practiced in seclusion, both to avoid all troubles and to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. With sufficient elixirs, such hard training made him feel at ease, even quite enjoyable, and not feeling the slightest bit of boredom. 2 hours later, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. He exhaled lightly, and after a little thought, he took out a magic weapon from the storage bag. It was a palm-sized banner, black in color, with complicated patterns carved on the banner, and a ferocious ghost head painted on the top. It was obvious that this banner was not a decent thing. This banner was the one-hand banner that Wei Hong seized. This one-hand banner should be just a replica of the magic weapon, otherwise it would be impossible for everyone in the Blood Eagle to have one. Looking at the one-hand banner in his hand, Wei Hong made a very sure judgment. Of course, he couldn't be unaware of the famous magic weapon, the 10,000 Souls Banner. The 10,000 Souls Banner is a relatively famous magic weapon in the magic way, and has always been known for its terror and power. Because the 10,000 Souls Banner can continuously absorb the ghosts of the dead, the more ghosts it absorbs, the more powerful the 10,000 Souls Banner will be. It can even continuously improve the quality of the magic weapon, and the more it is nurtured, the stronger it will be. If the 10,000 Souls Banner in his hand is a genuine magic weapon, Wei Hong would not even have the chance to make a move. Therefore, he judged that this 10,000 Souls Banner is definitely a replica of the genuine magic weapon. Moreover, the key training stage cannot drive magic weapons at all, and the ones that can be used are all magic tools. Obviously, this 10,000 Souls Banner is a treasure of the magic tool level. Although it is just a replica, it is just right for me to use. If it is a real magic weapon, I have no idea where to start. Wei Hong looked at the 10,000 Souls Banner in his hand, and his eyes were burning. He was not a greedy person. He knew that with his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to get his hands on any magic weapon. He was lucky to get a replica of such a magic weapon. The reason why he took out the 10,000 Souls Banner was that he planned to use it for himself. Wei Hong had checked it before. There were at least thousands of resentful souls in the 10,000 Souls Banner. As long as he could successfully master the 10,000 Souls Banner, not only would his strength be greatly improved, but he would also have one more trump card. Moreover, he could continue to absorb various ghosts and resentful souls into it in the future. It was not impossible to directly upgrade it to a magic weapon in the future. It's a pity that the materials used for refining are a little worse. Wei Hong was dissatisfied with this point. However, it did not affect anything, and Wei Hong did not pay much attention to it. He took the 10,000 Souls Banner in his hand and played with it carefully, while constantly thinking about a solution in his mind. Wei Hong was not a magic cultivator, nor had he practiced magic skills, so even if he could drive the 10,000 Souls Banner like a flying sword, its power would definitely not be very strong. It was even a question whether the thousands of resentful souls in the banner could obey his command. Once those resentful souls were released and turned around to devour Wei Hong, it would be a lot of fun, and he would never allow such a mistake to happen. Since normal means don't work, let's try another way. Wei Hong quickly changed his mind, and then his eyes suddenly lit up. Haha, yes, don't I have 9 ghost children? It should be okay to use ghost children to suppress the 10,000 Souls Banner and those resentful souls, right? As long as the ghost children can suppress the 10,000 Souls Banner, I will give the 10,000 Souls Banner to the 9 ghost children to jointly control. This is definitely more feasible than me controlling it myself, and the power is definitely much greater. Haha, not bad, let's do it. Wei Hong became more and more excited as he thought about it, and he felt that it was very feasible. So he directly summoned the 9 ghost children. As soon as the ghost children appeared, they immediately flew around Wei Hong with great excitement. Obviously, they had long wanted to come out for some fresh air. Haha, didn't I call you out? After sensing the mood of the ghost children, Wei Hong smiled and comforted them. Come, I called you out today to do something serious, so don't mess up. Wei Hong carefully reminded them with some concern. The 9 ghost children nodded excitedly, and the speed of flying became much more cheerful. After Wei Hong gave the instructions, he picked up the 10,000 souls banner with a solemn face. He threw the 10,000 souls banner lightly with his right hand, and it was thrown into the air. Then Wei Hong pinched his hands and drove his spiritual power to continuously inject the magic formula into the 10,000 souls banner. The 10,000 souls banner was steadily suspended in the air under the control of the spiritual power, and did not fall down. Moreover, the banner began to light up slightly. As the magic formula continued to be injected, the light on the banner became more and more intense, and even the whole banner began to slowly grow larger, from the size of a palm to more than half a meter high. At the same time, the bedroom where Wei Hong was also filled with a cold and weird atmosphere. Seeing this, the 9 ghost children immediately surrounded the 10,000 souls banner suspended in the air with their claws and fangs bared. They continued to devour the yin qi and resentment emitted by the 10,000 souls banner, and the greed in their eyes became brighter and brighter. After Wei Hong's cultivation broke through to the 4th level of qi training, the strength of the 9 ghost children also went up a level. Now the 10,000 souls banner is still ownerless for the time being. No matter how many resentful souls there are, it is useless. If no one controls it, the power of the resentful souls cannot be exerted at all, so 9 ghost children should be enough to suppress the 10,000 souls banner. Wei Hong's movements began to slow down at this time, and at the same time, with a thought, the 9 ghost children began to rotate around the 10,000 souls banner, and their bodies had changed greatly. They all turned into fierce ghosts, and their claws and fangs were very scary. The next moment, the 9 ghost children all drilled into the banner with a whoosh. The ghost children are also invisible, so they can easily enter and exit the 10,000 souls banner. After seeing the ghost children drill in, Wei Hong gently closed his eyes. However, his hands did not stop moving, and his spiritual power was continuously injected into the 10,000 souls banner. When the 9 ghost children disappeared, the 10,000 souls banner suspended in the air began to tremble slightly. Wei Hong knew that the ghost children began to suppress the resentful souls from within. This was the solution Wei Hong thought of, and the result was developing in the direction he expected. As long as the 9 ghost children could subdue and suppress all the resentful souls, then it would be absolutely no problem for them to drive the 10,000 souls banner. It was even more compatible with Wei Hong than Wei Hong himself. His choice was absolutely correct. Now, it depends on the performance of the ghost children. Wei Hong closed his eyes but was not worried at all, but became more and more expectant. Chapter 438 Prepare for a rainy day and plan. A chilly atmosphere permeated around the 10,000 souls banner. The 10,000 souls banner suspended in the air shook slightly at first, and then shook like a sieve. And as the shaking became more and more intense, the light emitted from the banner began to slowly dim. Wei Hong's face showed a trace of joy, because he knew that the ghost children were suppressing the resentful souls. Sure enough, in less than an instant of time, the 10,000 souls banner slowly calmed down, and the light emitted from the banner also became very dim. The next moment, 9 ghost children flew out of the 10,000 souls banner one after another. Haha, it worked. After sensing the information from the ghost children, Wei Hong laughed happily. The 9 ghost children also surrounded him happily and whimpered, as if they were asking him for credit. Wei Hong naturally praised, haha, well done, all very good. As a result, the ghost children flew more excitedly. Wei Hong then ordered, this 10,000 souls banner is now in your hands. Come, let me see how well you can control it. Woo woo woo. The 9 ghost children naturally had no objections and immediately agreed. One of the ghost children raised his hand and sucked the 10,000 souls banner floating in the air into his hand. Then he waved it gently, and hundreds of resentful souls appeared in the air, and the cold air suddenly surged. After feeling the cold air, even Wei Hong felt that it was a big threat. After letting the ghost child control it briefly, he found that the 10,000 souls banner could really exert its power to the greatest extent in the hands of the ghost child, and even had some power doubling effects, which really surprised him. Ha ha ha, good, my idea is right, this 10,000 souls banner will be controlled by you from now on. After discovering that the ghost child could perfectly control the 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong laughed in surprise. So far, he has added another trump card. It looks really powerful, but it can't be used as a regular method. Wei Hong felt a headache when he thought that this was a magic weapon. What a pity, if someone sees me, they might think I'm a magic cultivator, and then they will have to fight against a devil and defend the way. He would never dare to use this magic weapon casually. Once discovered by those righteous cultivators, they would definitely not show mercy. Once this 10,000 souls banner is used, all the people on the scene must be killed. Wei Hong was secretly ruthless in his heart. Afterwards, the 9 ghost children played outside for a while before they were willing to go back. Wei Hong took the 10,000 souls banner back in his hand, cut his finger with a dagger, and filled a bowl with it before putting the 10,000 souls banner in it. As a magic weapon, the 10,000 souls banner also needs to be nourished with blood every day, so that the power of the weapon can be maintained and the spirituality can be gradually nurtured. After doing all this, Wei Hong closed his eyes and practiced again. 2 months later. In the past 2 months, Wei Hong has been living in seclusion. In addition to practicing, he studies talismans and formations every day. His life is very fulfilling. Although he rarely goes out, he knows roughly what the situation is like inside the market. Since the Blood Eagle robbery cultivators retreated, the entire Kingayan Mountain market has been like a flower hit by frost, withering and becoming much quieter. Many people don't want to encounter such things again, so they left the market soon. Some people also moved away and no longer chose to live in the Kingayan Mountain market. At the same time, many shops closed down or transferred. In short, business is very difficult to do, much more miserable than before. Even for a large chain business alliance like the Treasure Pavilion, business has plummeted compared to before, and the impact is very large, which makes many people sigh. But people have an inertia, that is, they forget. As 2 months passed slowly, the Kingayan Mountain market began to gradually regain some vitality and popularity. The number of people coming and going in the market began to increase slowly, and the business of most shops in the market began to improve slowly. Kingayan sect also made great efforts. In order to prevent the previous incident from happening again, they not only set up monitoring points at the entrance of the market, but also expanded the patrol team of the market by 2 times. The protective array of the market was directly replaced with a higher-level Zuandan water wave array. In this way, the safety of the market was greatly improved. After 2 months of hard practice in the small courtyard, although he gained a lot and made a big step forward in his cultivation, Wei Hong couldn't help feeling a little depressed. Therefore, he strolled around the market these days. At this time, his mind became a little active, and some thoughts that he had never thought of before began to emerge in his mind. Looking at some shops with good business, Wei Hong's eyes flashed with envy, and he murmured secretly, "It's much easier to make money from money than to make money from life. Being a laborer is never a good thing." In the final analysis, Wei Hong wanted to be his own boss. He now has more than 1,000 spirit stones on hand, which is a huge sum of money for him. However, Wei Hong was a little entangled and hesitant about how to use this huge sum of money and where to use it. He couldn't make up his mind for a while. Now he has no shortage of cultivation resources, and the expenses in a short period of time are not large. Therefore, Wei Hong quickly thought of using this money to earn more spiritual stones. This is the best strategy, and it is also a sudden inspiration. Once this idea emerged, it was completely lingering in his mind. It must be said that Wei Hong's idea is absolutely wise. And he has also considered it carefully, and he has a clear idea of all the details. Although after 2 months of development, the market has gradually recovered some vitality, but for many shops, business still can't go back to the past. Therefore, many shops in the market are still empty during this period, and the rental market is relatively cold, and the rent of shops has been reduced a lot, which makes Wei Hong's idea more fiery. So Wei Hong is ready to open a shop and make money as a shopkeeper. This idea is absolutely feasible. I have both funds and skills. Why should I be afraid that my products cannot be sold and that business will be difficult to do? The more Wei Hong thought about it, the more excited he became. He was not affected by the market at all. The idea of opening a shop to make money took root in his mind and immediately grew and developed, making it impossible for him to give up this idea. Moreover, after this idea came up, he also did some market research in the past few days. After careful consideration, he made this decision. This thing can be done, and it will definitely not lose money. It is much better than being a laborer. Why should you be a laborer for others when you can be your own boss? After the incident in the talisman workshop, Wei Hong was even more unwilling to experience the taste of being bound by others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439, Opening a Talisman Shop. But, what should I sell in the store? Wei Hong was a little confused about this question. Although he had decided to open a store, he still had to consider what business to start. Apart from talismans, it seems that I don't have anything to sell. Oh, by the way, I can also sell talisman skins. Forget about formations. At present, I only know how to make water mist formations. I might as well take some tasks from the General Affairs Hall occasionally. Wei Hong thought about it and found that he only knew how to make formations besides drawing talismans. But at present, he only knew how to make water mist formations. It was a bit unrealistic to open a store with this. In the end, Wei Hong decided to open a talisman store. Then let's open a talisman shop. Wei Hong made a decisive decision, and then said with a little excitement, it will save me from having to set up a stall in the market to sell talismans in the future. Not only is it tiring, but the price can't be sold at a high price. It's different to open a shop by myself. Besides, I can also sell some talisman skins. With my craftsmanship, I can earn at least 10 spirit stones for each talisman skin made from monster skins. A little bit adds up to a lot. Judging from Wei Hong's current craftsmanship, opening a shop to sell talismans and talisman skins is indeed the most suitable choice. But if I open a shop to sell talismans by myself, I can't appear as the Array Master Guan Yu. I must change my identity. Wei Hong considered it more carefully. It is indeed safer to be the owner of a talisman shop with a new identity. Haha, it's settled, let's go look at the shops. After making up his mind, Wei Hong was in a good mood. After changing his appearance, he immediately went to the rental pavilion to see which shops were for transfer. The rental pavilion is in charge of the rental of houses, the rental and sale of shops in the entire market. If you want to rent a shop, you can only go to the rental pavilion. After arriving at the rental pavilion, Wei Hong walked straight in. My fellow Taoist, do you want to rent a house or shop? After entering the lobby of the rental pavilion, a middle-aged monk took the lead in greeting. This middle-aged monk was of medium build, but his appearance was extremely elegant. People could feel good at first sight, and his eyes were quite kind. Moreover, this person was a monk in the late stage of key training. Wei Hong naturally did not dare to neglect him, and bowed his hands and said, "Hello, Senior, I am Lin Hong. I came here to rent a shop to do some small business." Haha, it turns out to be fellow Taoist Lin. I am Lu Ming, the manager of the rental office. Lu Ming also bowed his hands politely, and then asked, I wonder which shop fellow Taoist Lin wants to rent? Or if you have any requirements, I can check for you. Nowadays, the market is deserted, and many shops are waiting to be transferred. As the manager of the rental office, Lu Ming is naturally very enthusiastic about people like Wei Hong who want to rent a shop. Wei Hong thought about it and replied, Senior, I want to rent shop number 137 in District C. I wonder how much the monthly rent is. As early as he had the idea of opening a shop, he carefully went around the market. Especially those shops that were transferred were the targets he focused on. After checking and considering, Wei Hong temporarily selected shop number 137 in District C. Like the residential area, the distribution of shops is also divided into 4 areas, A, B, C, and D. The shop that Wei Hong had his eye on was a small shop with an area of only more than 30 square meters, and it also included a lounge of 5 or 6 square meters. Although the shop was not very large, it was enough for him to use. The small lounge was just right for his talisman drawing room. Besides, he couldn't afford to rent a shop that was too large. As the manager of the rental office, Lu Ming was naturally familiar with the shops in the market. He immediately knew the shop that Wei Hong was talking about, so he immediately said, so fellow Taoist Lin has his eye on that shop. Haha, the rent of that shop is now 110 spirit stones per month, no bargaining. 110. Wei Hong lowered his head and thought. To be honest, this price is definitely not high. At least compared with the past, this price is very favorable. Wei Hong calculated in his mind for a while, then looked up and said to Lu Ming, okay, 110 is 110, I'll rent that shop. Haha, fellow Taoist Lin is really straightforward. Lu Ming's face also showed a trace of joy, and he immediately smiled and said, since fellow Taoist Lin has decided to rent it, then I will prepare a lease contract for you. As for the rent, do you choose to pay it monthly or annually? Pay it monthly. Wei Hong did not hesitate at all. Just kidding, if you pay the rent for the whole year at once, it will cost more than 1,300 spirit stones. Wei Hong's entire net worth is not that much, so how could he choose to pay it every 6 months? Well, fellow Taoist Lin, take a look at this contract first. If there is no objection, we can sign it now. Lu Ming nodded, took out a contract and handed it to Wei Hong. This is a lease contract, not the contract of selling himself that he signed before. However, Wei Hong still did not dare to be careless. After taking the contract, he carefully checked it. No problem. Wei Hong signed the contract directly after confirming it. However, he took out another 110 spirit stones and gave them to Lu Ming, and the first month's rent was paid. Lu Ming was also very satisfied with Wei Hong's straightforwardness, so he directly handed a token to Wei Hong. Fellow Taoist Lin, please keep this token. This is your rental certificate. With this token, you can also open the protective array. Wei Hong nodded and took it. Thank you, Senior Lu. Haha, fellow Taoist, you are polite. Lu Ming smiled kindly. He was in a good mood to be able to rent out another store. Wei Hong smiled and bowed, then said goodbye and left. After leaving the rental pavilion, Wei Hong first came to the store he rented. He used the token to open the protective array and walked in directly. Tisk, it's really empty, there's nothing. After entering, Wei Hong showed an expression of as expected. The store was empty, with nothing. Obviously, if Wei Hong wanted to open a store successfully, it would not be enough to just rent a store, but also to consider issues such as arranging the venue and purchasing tables, chairs, and shelves. How to arrange it, and whether to hire people. All these need Wei Hong to make his own decisions. Alice, everything is difficult at the beginning, take your time. Wei Hong sighed softly, but without any impatience or boredom. After all, this is a business, not a stall, so it is normal to need to prepare more carefully and completely, and he naturally has no resistance. Moreover, these things are just trivial, and they don't actually require much thought. Then let's get started, and try to open it as soon as possible. Wei Hong smiled, looked at the store and turned away. From now on, he will prepare all the things needed to open a store, and he will do everything himself. Chapter 440 Lingfu Pavilion. 3 days later. Looking at the brand new shop, Wei Hong nodded with satisfaction. In the past 3 days, he did everything himself, bought all the shelves, counters, tables and chairs and some miscellaneous things needed for the shop, and then arranged those things according to his own ideas, finally making the whole shop look decent. And he also changed the lounge that belonged to the shopkeeper into his own talisman drawing room, and prepared all the tools needed for talisman drawing. As the saying goes, the shop is small, but it has everything. Very good, next it's time to prepare the source of goods. Wei Hong glanced around and felt quite satisfied. Now that the shop has been arranged, what he needs to do most is to prepare the source of goods. What source of goods? Of course, it's talismans and talisman skins. In order to prepare various talismans for sale, Wei Hong needs to try to draw more talismans in the next period of time, otherwise if there are no goods on the shelves, others will not even be interested in coming in to take a look. After closing the door of the shop again, Wei Hong returned to the rented courtyard. This time, Wei Hong was in seclusion for 10 days. During these 10 days, he was either drawing talismans or meditating to restore his spiritual power. When he came out of the rented courtyard, he had more than 120 talismans on him. Among them, the first-level low-grade talismans included wooden thwart talismans, water shield talismans, wooden wall talismans, and cleaning talismans, and he drew more than 70 of them in total. The remaining 50 were all first-level medium-grade talismans, including fireball talismans, earth wall talismans, and thorn talismans. Now he is at the 4th level of key training, and the success rate of drawing first-level medium-grade talismans has finally increased. After a day of rest, Wei Hong opened the store directly in a very low-key manner. He also made a plaque for the store, on which were engraved the 3 big characters Spiritual Talisman Pavilion. Because Wei Hong chose to open the store in a low-key manner, he didn't even set off 2 strings of firecrackers, and didn't ask anyone to shout at the door, so basically not many people knew when his Spiritual Talisman Pavilion opened. Only the monks who happened to pass by would know that there was a shop selling talismans here. However, several shops around the Lingfu Pavilion knew about it, but because they had no relationship with Wei Hong, the shopkeepers did not know who Wei Hong was. so no one came to congratulate him on the opening. Wei Hong did not care, which was just what he wanted. After the opening, he put all the talismans he had drawn in the past 10 days, plus some unused talismans looted from Yan Feng and the young robber cultivator, on the shelves as his goods after the opening. A low-key opening naturally would not have many customers. Tisk, take your time. Wei Hong smiled bitterly and shook his head. Then he thought about it and took some talismans from the shelf. Then he stopped looking at his own shop and turned to walk into a shop selling magic tools next to him. Please come in, sir. Seeing a customer coming, a servant of this shop immediately came to greet him. At this time, Wei Hong asked with a smile, "Is your shopkeeper here?" Huh? The servant was stunned for a moment, then answered carefully, "Yes, the shopkeeper is in the back." "What are you doing, sir?" Before Wei Hong could answer, as if he heard the movement in front, a man immediately walked out from the back of the shop, walked towards Wei Hong, and greeted him with a smile. "Haha, what is your name, fellow Taoist?" "My name is Han Zhen, the shopkeeper of this magic weapon pavilion." Since the shopkeeper had already appeared, the servant naturally tactfully stepped aside. Wei Hong smiled and bowed, saying, "Haha, it turns out to be fellow Taoist Han. My name is Lin Hong, and I'm the shopkeeper of the Lingfu Pavilion next door. Our shop just opened today, and I've shamelessly come here to make friends with you, fellow Taoist Han. We'll all do business here together in the future, and I hope fellow Taoist Han will take care of me. Oh, by the way, these are a few talismans I drew myself. Please accept them, fellow Taoist Han. I hope fellow Taoist Han won't reject them. They were just a few talismans, not of very high value. They were suitable to be given as a gift, so Wei Hong didn't feel bad about it. Han Zhen laughed and congratulated him at first. "Haha, so today is the opening of your shop, congratulations." Then he said with a self-blaming face, "It was Han who neglected it. I didn't even know that fellow Taoist Lin's shop was opening. I am really sorry. And you asked fellow Taoist Lin to come to your house in person. How can this be allowed? It should be Han who came to congratulate you. As for this talisman, Han dare not accept it." Han Zhen politely declined repeatedly. Wei Hong waved his hand nonchalantly and said, "Hey, it is normal for fellow Taoist Han not to know that our shop is opening. Why apologize? As for congratulating you in person, there is no need. We are neighbors. There will be plenty of opportunities to visit each other in the future, so please accept this talisman." Wei Hong also said all kinds of nice words as if they were free of charge. Anyway, he didn't lose anything. And he was here to make friends, so there was nothing wrong with being polite. Seeing that he couldn't refuse, Han Zhen generously accepted the talismans, and then personally brewed a pot of tea to entertain Wei Hong. After the two chatted for a while, Wei Hong left leisurely. Then he visited 4 or 5 shops one after another, and got to know all the shopkeepers of the surrounding shops. Although the two sides only met once, they also expressed their goodwill. The shopkeepers of the other shops also congratulated him politely and said that they would definitely visit him in the future. In this way, the surrounding shops all knew that a new Lingfu pavilion selling talismans had opened near them. The shopkeeper's name was Lin Hong, and he was a first-level middle-grade talisman painter. After doing all this, Wei Hong was free. It seems that I still need to hire someone to help me run the store. Looking at the empty shop, Wei Hong had the idea of hiring someone in his mind. Not for anything else, just to allow her to spare more time to draw talismans. After all, as the shopkeeper, he couldn't do even such a small thing as selling talismans himself, so it was necessary to hire a servant. Besides, it wouldn't cost much to hire a servant, at most 5 or 6 spirit stones a month. So, Wei Hong posted a job to hire someone in the General Affairs Hall. Naturally, many people applied for such an easy job. After meeting a few, Wei Hong decisively chose a girl who looked very smart and was at the first level of key training. He paid her 5 spirit stones a month and asked her to help run the store. I'm finally free. A shopkeeper should act like a shopkeeper. After throwing all the big and small things in the store to the girl named Meng Lan, Wei Hong felt relieved and happy. Chapter 441 An Unexpected Surprise. Qinghai Mountain Market. Lingfu Pavilion. Lingfu Pavilion opened early in the morning. It was Wei Hong who opened the door. He opened the door every morning according to the management. Soon after Wei Hong opened the door, the newly hired girl Meng Lan followed and started her day's work, selling talismans and taking care of the store. Relatively speaking, Selling talismans is much more leisurely than peeling or pouring night incense, and the wages are also high, so the girl Meng Lan, who is at the first level of key training, cherishes this job very much. She has been diligent and hardworking, and she is also smart and clever. Wei Hong is very satisfied. Wei Hong's Lingfu Pavilion has just opened, and the location is not very good. It was also very low-key when it opened, so there was no traffic during the opening period, and even the customers who came in were very few. But Wei Hong was not disappointed or discouraged, but very calm. He knew that this was normal. It takes time for a store to develop normally. Therefore, Wei Hong stayed in the lounge every day to draw talismans and practice, occasionally going out for a stroll or chatting with the shopkeepers of several nearby shops, and his life was quite comfortable. He didn't have to help others with work, nor did he have to look at people's faces, nor was he bound by any constraints, nor did he have to work hard to set up a stall to sell talismans. This kind of life made Wei Hong feel quite satisfied. Therefore, in a leisurely and relaxed state of mind, Wei Hong's success rate in drawing talismans was slightly improved, which was a pleasant surprise for him. This is life. Wei Hong was content. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed. The Qingyuan Mountain Market gradually returned to its former bustle and prosperity, and what had happened before was slowly being forgotten. On this day, Wei Hong came early to open the door as usual. After opening the door, he was not in a hurry to draw talismans, but first made a cup of tea and tasted it slowly. When the little girl Meng Lan came, he slowly put down the teacup. Good morning, shopkeeper. The little girl was very energetic and greeted Wei Hong as soon as she came. Wei Hong also smiled and nodded at her. Haha, good morning. After spending more than half a year together, Meng Lan had already become familiar with Wei Hong. She also gradually understood Wei Hong's personality and character, so she was not afraid of Wei Hong at all, but often smiled. Wei Hong also liked the cheerful character of the little girl, so he would not hesitate to give her a few pointers on weekdays. Xiao Lan, go and take out all the talismans in there and put them in place later. If you don't have anything to do, don't bother me. Wei Hong stood up leisurely and casually instructed Meng Lan. The little girl immediately responded with a smile. Okay, boss, don't worry. Wei Hong nodded, and he was naturally assured of the little girl's ability to handle things. In the past 6 months, he has left all the big and small things in the store to Meng Lan to take care of, and Meng Lan naturally did not disappoint him. She handled everything in an orderly manner. It can be said that she helped Wei Hong share those chores to the greatest extent, allowing him to draw talismans and practice wholeheartedly. At this time, a middle-aged man in a gray robe and with his hands behind his back slowly walked into the store. Miss Meng Lan immediately greeted him with a smile. Hey, Senior Yuan is here? What talisman do you want to buy today? Haha, do you still have the Rejuvenation Talisman and the Earth Wall Talisman? If you have, give me 5 of each. Yuan Xiangxing said his needs with a smile. Yes, we have them all. Senior Yuan, please wait a moment. Meng Lan agreed and went to prepare. At this time, Wei Hong also smiled and said, Dao Yuan, you are quite early today. Haha, it's rare to see Dao Wei come out. Yuan Xiangxing also saw Wei Hong and laughed and joked. Wei Hong naturally didn't care, but poured a cup of tea for Yuan Xiangxing and chatted with him for a while until Meng Lan brought the talisman he needed. This middle-aged man named Yuan Xiangxing was an old customer of the Lingfu Pavilion. After discovering Wei Hong's Lingfu Pavilion, he came to buy talismans every now and then, so Wei Hong and he gradually became familiar with each other. Over the past 6 months, the business of his Lingfu Pavilion has gone from being unpopular at the beginning to having many regular customers coming to the door. The business has been constantly improving, and the number of regular customers has gradually increased. After seeing off Yuan Xiangxing, Wei Hong walked slowly into the lounge. After sitting down in front of the wooden table for drawing talismans, he did not start drawing talismans immediately, but was rarely in deep thought. My life is pretty good now. I can draw talismans and practice without any delay. A trace of satisfaction flashed across Wei Hong's face, and then he said to himself, the talisman method is enough for the time being, and the formation method is the same. It's better to bite off more than you can chew. There is no need to learn for the time being. Let's study what I have learned now first. My cultivation has also broken through a level, haha, thanks to the elixir that old dog Yan Feng gave me. Wei Hong was even more satisfied when he thought of his current cultivation. Over the past 6 months, he has been taking the elixir that he looted from Yanfeng and the young robber cultivator, so that his cultivation speed has skyrocketed, and he has broken through to the 5th level of key training more than a month ago. The breakthrough in cultivation is Wei Hong's biggest gain in the past 6 months. After all, cultivation is the foundation of his foothold in the world of immortal cultivation. If his strength cannot be improved, everything is a tree without roots and may not survive at any time. Of course, in addition to the breakthrough in cultivation, he also has many other gains, which has improved his overall strength and foundation. First of all, in terms of talismans, after Wei Hong had sufficient funds, he began to purchase more than 20 talismans through various channels and learn them one by one. Among them are first-level low-grade talismans such as the God-Traveling Talisman, the Meditation Talisman and the Vajra Talisman, as well as first-level medium-grade talismans such as the Wood Thunder Talisman, the Rejuvenation Talisman, the Earth Thorn Talisman, the Water Dragon Talisman, the Golden Sword Talisman and the Earth Escape Talisman. The variety of talismans is complete, enough for him to deal with most unexpected situations. Secondly, the formation. Before only learned the first-level low-grade formation Water Mist Formation, which naturally could not satisfy Wei Hong, so with sufficient funds, he bought 2 more formation scrolls. One is the first-level low-grade formation Rockfall Formation, which can attack enemies and change terrain. The other is a first-level lower-grade formation, the Fire Dragon Formation. After setting up the formation, 4 fire dragons can be summoned to attack the target. After learning these 2 formations, Wei Hong's fighting methods have increased. As long as he is given enough time to set up the formation and lead the enemy into the formation, he can fight against even multiple mid-stage key training cultivators. If it weren't for that windfall, I'm afraid it would take another year to develop to this level. Thinking of the various talismans and formations he learned, Wei Hong was very emotional. It was precisely because of the huge windfall he looted from Yanfeng and the young robber cultivator that he could live such a comfortable life now. Chapter 442 New Troubles. Wei Hong was very satisfied with his current life and progress in cultivation. The only thing that made him feel inadequate was the acquisition of vitality points. Alice, it's a pity that all the black jade spiders in the Spider Valley have been killed, and the good place to earn vitality points is gone. Wei Hong couldn't help sighing when he thought of this problem. The reason why he was able to learn so many talismans and formations was because of vitality points. A month after opening the shop, Wei Hong went to the Spider Valley again to hunt black jade spiders. Because the Blood Eagle Tribulation cultivators outside the market had long been strongly eliminated by the Kingai sect, otherwise the market would not have been prosperous again. So Wei Hong did not encounter any unexpected situations on that trip, and he harvested thousands of vitality points very smoothly. With sufficient vitality points, he felt richer than having thousands of spirit stones in hand. Therefore, after Wei Hong came back, he immediately upgraded the talisman drawing technique to the perfect state, and the 2 first-level middle-grade talismans, the Thorn Talisman and the Earth Wall Talisman, were also upgraded to the great success state by him, which made his attainments in talisman drawing soar. Of course, as the main cultivation method at present, King Muju is also very important, and naturally he has upgraded it to the perfect state. In this way, the thousands of vitality points that he had just obtained were directly squandered. Wei Hong maintained the frequency of brushing once a month and gained a large number of vitality points. However, as he continued to learn various talismans and formations, even if he brushed a large number of vitality points from the Spider Valley, it was still not enough. Until last month, the black jade spiders in the Spider Valley had been completely killed by him. Even if there were some that were not killed, they had long realized the crisis and fled the Spider Valley. As a result, a large number of talismans, formations and spells on Wei Hong's body were only upgraded to the minor success level. This result made him feel extremely regretful every day. What a pity, I still have so many talismans that I've not reached a major success level. Now where can I find the next place to brush vitality points? Wei Hong's face was full of melancholy, but a little helpless. With the death of the black jade spiders, he now urgently wants to find the next way to brush vitality points. Without a large number of vitality points, it would be difficult for him to improve his realm with all the spells, formations and magics he learned. After all, his energy is limited, and the time he has every day is fixed. In addition, he also needs to practice, So the time he can spend studying various spells every day is quite limited, so he needs a lot of vitality points to improve the realm of various skills. Wei Hong thought about it. How about hunting monsters? No, it still can't solve the problem. Monsters rarely live in groups, and a small number will not help at all. If you want to find the next way to brush vitality points, you should consider these aspects. First, it must be a monster or spirit insect that lives in groups. Even if it is not a group, it must be able to reproduce in large numbers. Second, the individual's strength cannot be too strong. With my current means, it would be best if I can kill a large number of them at one time. Third, it is best to be able to hunt sustainably, not like the black jade spider that dies out after a few brushes. The direction is fine, and Wei Hong's thoughts are not wrong, but it still makes him feel difficult to find a suitable method based on these three directions. Forget it. Wei Hong sighed and said, let's go outside and try first, such as hunting monsters to see how many vitality points we can get, and by the way, find out if there is a place like Spider Valley. After making a decision in his mind, he emptied his mind and began to draw talismans. After staying in the Spirit Talisman Pavilion for a long time and drawing talismans for several hours, Wei Hong explained to the little girl Meng Lan, and then walked out of the market. This time he did not change his appearance, but maintained the identity and appearance of the talisman painter Lin Hong. His identity can be said to be extremely low-key, and no one would pay attention to his whereabouts. After leaving the market, Wei Hong went directly into the forest outside. Snap! He first slapped a magic talisman on his feet, which doubled his speed. Then he took out a flying sword and put it on his back, and after pinching a few talismans in his left hand, he began to search in the forest. Wei Hong searched quickly along the forest, trying to check the valley and other terrain as much as possible. With his current cultivation, he didn't have to be as cautious as before. However, Wei Hong was not less cautious and vigilant, and made all kinds of preparations. After half an hour, he found nothing. At this time, he couldn't help but stop and shook his head. How can I look for it? There is no target at all. Such an aimless search is actually meaningless, and the harvest will naturally be less, or even no harvest at all. Wei Hong was a little helpless, and he was still hesitating whether to continue searching. The next moment, his body immediately tensed up. Huh? Wei Hong's face changed slightly, and his left hand immediately clenched the talisman. However, he did not panic at all, but looked slowly to the left. There, a monster beast similar to a leopard slowly walked out from behind a big tree. This leopard was about 10 feet long and 1.5 meters tall. It was blue-black in color, and the blue hair on its body looked very soft. Blue-faced leopard. The moment he saw this leopard, Wei Hong recognized it. This is a monster beast called the blue-faced leopard, which is blue-black in color, has wind attributes, and is extremely fast. When this information flashed through Wei Hong's mind, the green leopard was also looking at Wei Hong with burning eyes. The reason why Wei Hong noticed the approach of the green leopard at the first time was not only because he was more sensitive to the sense of crisis, but also because the green leopard did not seem to have the intention of concealing its whereabouts, so he noticed it the first time the green leopard approached. 5th level of key training? What, do you think you can defeat me? After sensing the breath of the green leopard, Wei Hong smiled indifferently. Normally, the strength of the monsters of the same level is indeed stronger than that of the cultivators. But Wei Hong was not worried at all, but was eager to try. It was not known whether the green leopard could understand what Wei Hong said, or perhaps it was stimulated by his slightly disdainful smile. Roar! The green leopard roared, and its limbs lightly kicked the ground, and its whole body turned into a flash of lightning and pounced on Wei Hong. Even in mid-air, its limbs had already ejected sharp claws more than a foot long, as if it was going to kill Wei Hong directly and tear him to pieces. But the next moment, it crashed head-on into a thick wooden wall. Bang! The green leopard was too fast, and it had no time to react. It slammed head-on into the wooden wall, making a very dull sound. For a moment, even the green leopard itself felt a little dizzy. Chapter 443 Insect Eggs, Surprise. Swish, swish, swish. Before the green leopard could recover, 3 wooden walls appeared out of thin air again. Together with the first wooden wall, the green leopard's dodging space was completely blocked. The wooden wall technique and the wooden thwart technique were the first 2 spells that Wei Hong promoted to the great perfection realm, so he was absolutely at ease in performing them. Not only was the casting speed extremely fast, But even the quality of the wooden wall was also improved a lot. Did you see that the green leopard at the 5th level of key training couldn't break through the wooden wall? If it was replaced by other cultivators, they would have been smashed to pieces by the green leopard. Roar. The green leopard recovered and saw that even its retreat was blocked, and it was instantly furious. It suddenly opened its bloody mouth, and a crescent-shaped wind blade more than 1 foot long instantly formed in its mouth. Swish! The green leopard opened its mouth and spit out the wind blade, which slashed fiercely towards the front. At the same time, the green leopard saw that it was blocked from all directions, so it suddenly jumped on the spot, trying to jump out of the wooden wall. Unfortunately, 4 strong wooden spikes with pointed heads and thick tails appeared faster than it. The 4 wooden spikes fell from the sky and stabbed the green leopard fiercely. The green leopard also jumped up, as if it had hid it. Bang! The crescent-shaped wind blade directly cut a large hole in the wooden wall. Roar! On the other side, the green leopard, which collided head-on with the 4 wooden spikes, also let out a shrill roar. The fur on the green leopard's body was extremely tough, but it was still pierced by 4 bloody holes by the 4 wooden spikes. The next moment, before the green leopard could flee in panic, a stream of light suddenly flashed by, giving the green leopard no time to react, and directly pierced its head. Boom! The eyes of the green leopard, which originally contained shock, anger, panic and fear, instantly lost all vitality, and all emotions completely dissipated, and then the huge body fell to the ground with a bang. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and pointed, and took back the flying sword that pierced the green leopard's head. Then he pinched the formula and waved his hand, dispersing all the spells. He slowly walked towards the body of the green leopard, not looking like he had just experienced a battle. Since Wei Hong stepped into the 5th level of key training, his strength has increased a lot again. Although this green leopard is at the same level as him, with his current strength, plus the power of spells in the Great Accomplishment realm, it is no problem to kill a monster of the same level. What's more, he was very wise to use 4 wooden walls to restrict the green leopard first, directly cutting off its biggest speed advantage. In this way, the green leopard naturally could not survive a few rounds under Wei Hong's hands and was directly killed. I can easily kill a green leopard at the 5th level of key training. It seems that my strength should be considered top-notch in the middle stage of key training. Wei Hong thought to himself as he walked towards the body of the green leopard. In fact, with his current cultivation and various backgrounds, there should be few people in the same level who can defeat him. Today's battle has proved Wei Hong's strength and made him more confident. Life points plus 500. At this time, the system also sounded a prompt. Wei Hong paused and thought to himself, 500 points? Not too little. A monster beast at the 5th level of key training can bring him 500 life points, which brings him some comfort. Moreover, the value of a green leopard at the 5th level of key training is obviously more than that. Whether it is the monster fur, the monster flesh and blood, or even the bones, they all have good value. This is why so many people join the hunting team, because hunting a monster can get a large amount of spirit stones. Wei Hong walked in front of the body of the green leopard, took out the flying sword and began to dismember the body. First, the skin was peeled, then the flesh was cut. Finally, the bones were collected. It took less than an incense stick of time to complete the whole process. This can be considered a harvest. The skin can be kept for making talisman skins, and the flesh can be kept for consumption. Not bad. Looking at his harvest, Wei Hong was quite surprised. However, he did not intend to go the route of hunting monsters. First, it was too slow to obtain vitality points in that way, and second, he did not want to live a life of bloodshed. It was just a coincidence that he encountered this green leopard today. After putting everything into the storage bag, Wei Hong turned around and returned to the market. Before that, he had searched the area of more than 10 miles, but he did not get anything. So he could only return disappointed, and did not find a way to brush vitality points. After entering the gate of the market, Wei Hong thought about it and walked towards the market. He also had a sudden impulse and wanted to go to the market to take a look. After the prosperity was restored, there were more monks coming and going in the market. Wei Hong walked leisurely, looking around casually. As he walked, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a stall selling insect eggs. Insect eggs. Wei Hong paused, and the moment he saw the insect eggs, a flash of inspiration seemed to suddenly flash through his mind. This inspiration was like a sharp sword, directly splitting the puzzle that had puzzled him for a long time. Insect eggs? Spirit insects. Yes, spirit insects are definitely the most suitable objects for gaining vitality points, especially those spirit insects that live in groups or reproduce very quickly. Hey, why do I have to think about looking for them outside? In fact, I can cultivate them myself, and raise any suitable one. That's right, raise them yourself and kill them yourself. Isn't this the method I want? And it's very safe. Haha, it's feasible. This method is definitely feasible. Wei Hong stood in place, and various ideas kept flashing through his mind. At this moment, the inspiration that just flashed through his mind was not only successfully grasped by him, but also transformed into a realistic and feasible method, which really surprised him. Since the black jade spiders in the Spider Valley had been killed by him, and he had lost a stable place to get vitality, why not raise spirit insects himself? Anyway, he didn't need to cultivate them into powerful spirit insects, so the corresponding investments should not be very large. In this way, he could produce spirit insects continuously for him to slaughter. Vitality points can be easily obtained, which is perfect. Compared with such an important thing as obtaining vitality points, even if the investment is larger, it is definitely worth it. When Wei Hong thought that raising spirit insects by himself might really work, he was very excited. If it really works, he would no longer need to go out to find suitable monsters or spirit insects. He could raise them himself and kill them whenever he wanted. It was as safe as it could be. Haha, I should have thought of it earlier. I had to go through so much trouble to find them outside, haha. Wei Hong laughed in his heart. His eyes became brighter and brighter, and then he went straight to the stall. As long as he understood the types and habits of spirit insects, he could do cultivation experiments purposefully. Until he found the most suitable spirit insect variety. Chapter 444 Hatching, Bloodthirsty Mosquito. Fellow Taoist, what kind of insect eggs are these? Wei Hong walked up to the stall selling insect eggs and asked. Since he had already determined that his method of breeding spiritual insects was feasible, he naturally had to find out the types of spiritual insects and how to cultivate them. The stall owner was selling spiritual insects, so wasn't he the best person for him to consult? The middle-aged man who looked a little worried glanced at Wei Hong after hearing the voice, and then said in a muffled voice, there are iron crystal ants, green flies, blood-sucking mosquitoes, yellow striped flies and flying locusts. Which one do you want, fellow Taoist? Oh. Wei Hong's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that this stall would have so many varieties of spiritual insects. He squatted down and asked, what are the prices? These are the eggs of first-grade low-grade spiritual insects. Seeing that Wei Hong seemed to really want to buy, the middle-aged man with a worried face became more serious and said, yes, the ones I mentioned just now are all first-grade low-grade spiritual insects, and these are their eggs. As for the price, all the eggs are 1 spirit stone for 100 eggs. You can pick as many as you want. There were densely packed insect eggs on the stall, as many as tens of thousands of them. However, Wei Hong did not answer immediately. Instead, he asked, fellow Taoist, what is the reproduction speed of those spiritual insects you mentioned just now? How often is the reproduction period? How many eggs can they lay each time? What should we pay attention to when feeding these spiritual insects? Faced with these questions, the middle-aged man with a worried face couldn't help but feel confused. Dao, are you here to buy insect eggs or to inquire about things? Haha, don't blame me, Dao. Wei Hong laughed, and then replied, I want to buy insect eggs, and I also want to talk to Dao about spiritual insects. I hope Dao can give me some advice. I don't deserve your advice. The middle-aged stall owner seemed to rarely see someone who was interested in spiritual insects. He didn't care what Wei Hong's purpose was. He immediately said excitedly as if he had found a confidant, but Dao, you have asked the right person. I have been raising spiritual insects for 5 or 6 years. Generally speaking, the reproduction speeds of various spiritual insects are different. Take the iron crystal ant for example. Each of these spiritual insects can lay hundreds of eggs each time, but the reproduction interval is relatively long as 2 months. Spiritual insects like the yellow striped fly are a little different. This kind of spiritual insect reproduces the fastest, and can reproduce once every half a month or so. Each yellow striped fly lays 20 to 30 eggs each time. At this time, the middle-aged stall owner seemed to have even less sadness on his face, and he talked to Wei Hong freely. Wei Hong took notes of all the information the middle-aged stall owner said with an open mind. He asked a few questions from time to time, all of which were questions he did not understand. The middle-aged stall owner was really generous in giving advice, and he solved many of Wei Hong's doubts during the chat. Of course, those were just common-sense questions. If you want to have a deeper understanding of spirit insects, or even cultivate spirit insects, it is not something that can be explained clearly in a few simple sentences. You must have experience in cultivation. For this reason, Wei Hong decisively bought a book on insect control from the middle-aged stall owner. At the same time, he bought thousands of eggs of all varieties of insects on the stall. He was going to use these eggs as an experiment to see if his idea was valid. He also needed to test which spirit insect was most suitable as a cultivation object. After the test, he would specialize in cultivating one spirit insect. Haha, thank you for solving my doubts, fellow Taoist. Wei Hong smiled and stood up. The middle-aged stall owner waved his hand and said indifferently, "You are too polite, fellow Taoist. Come often when you are free." Okay. Wei Hong nodded and turned away. He had learned from the middle-aged stall owner that as long as there was a continuous supply of monster meat and the spirit insects kept eating, the spirit insects would grow quickly and continue to lay eggs. Of course, if you want to cultivate spirit insects to the point where they can help in battle, it is not just a little monster meat that can be achieved. The resources and energy required are very large, which is why few cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation use spirit insects as a means of fighting. However, Wei Hong did not need to cultivate those spirit insects. He just needed to let the eggs hatch. Such an investment would be much simpler and acceptable to him. After returning to the courtyard, Wei Hong first carefully studied the secret book of insect control. After absorbing the various information and experience on it, he began to experiment with cultivating spirit insects. He first opened up an area in the courtyard specifically for cultivating spirit insects, and separated 5 locations, and placed 5 types of insect eggs, namely iron crystal ants, green flies, blood-sucking mosquitoes, yellow striped flies and flying locusts, with 100 eggs of each type. Since it is an experiment, it must be conducted in batches to compare detailed data. According to the method recorded in the secret book of insect control, he first arranged a special formation, and then bled, soaking each insect egg in the blood as soon as possible. This is the first step to hatch spirit insects. Blood can make the hatched spirit insects recognize the master directly. After all, the types he chose are the most common ordinary spirit insects, so naturally there is no need for complicated means of recognizing the master. After placing the insect eggs in the blood, Wei Hong did not need to do anything else for the time being. Those insect eggs will slowly absorb blood, and he only needs to continue to replenish blood. 5 days later, Wei Hong only replenished blood once, and the 5 spirit insects began to hatch one after another. Well, the first one to hatch is the panic fly, which takes 3 days, followed by the green fly, the flying locust and the blood-sucking mosquito, which take 3.5 to 4 days respectively. The latest one to hatch is the iron crystal ant, which takes 5 days. When those spirit insects hatched one after another, Wei Hong also recorded their hatching time in detail. Looking at those plump white spirit insects, Wei Hong's eyes flickered with eagerness to try. He thought for a moment, picked up an iron crystal ant and crushed it to death. Ling. Vitality points plus 0.01. Wei Hong was not disappointed at all, but thought, a newly hatched iron crystal ant has only this much vitality, what if it grows up? After recording this data, he crushed one of the other 4 spirit insects to death one by one. Ling. Vitality points plus 0.01. Ling. Vitality points plus 0.05. Ling. Vitality points plus 0.07. Ling. Vitality points plus 0.1. Except for the flying locust, which also adds 0.1 vitality points, the other 3 spirit insects are less than 0.1. Well, the numerical difference is not big, and the other data still need further experiments. Wei Hong nodded secretly, and he had a preliminary understanding of these spirit insects. Chapter 445 Experiment, Harvest. More than 4 months passed in a flash. During this time, Wei Hong has been working on the breeding experiments of several spirit insects. And while he was doing the experiments, he recorded all kinds of data. The hatching time of each spirit insect, the hatching survival rate, how much feeding resources are needed after hatching, how long it will take to lay eggs after feeding, how many eggs each spirit insect lays, how long it lays eggs, how often it reproduces, and so on. All kinds of data and comparisons were recorded in detail by him. Of course, There are also the changes of 5 spirit insects from larvae to adults, and how many vitality points can be obtained by killing an adult, all of which were recorded by him one by one. After so many months of various experimental results, Wei Hong found that the vitality points obtained by killing 5 spirit insects are not much different. Iron crystal ants plus 0.2, green flies plus 0.2, blood-sucking mosquitoes plus 0.18, yellow flies plus 0.2, flying locusts plus 0.3. Among these 5 spirit insects, flying locusts provide the most vitality points. The other 4 spirit insects are basically the same, and there is not much difference. Compared with killing larvae, adults naturally have a lot more vitality points. The cost is just to feed them for a few more days and waste some monster meat as food. Since killing newly hatched larvae can only obtain a very small amount of vitality points, while killing adults can increase several times or 10 or 20 times, Wei Hong naturally wants to raise the larvae into adults before harvesting them. This is beyond doubt. In addition, after comparing the data of the 5 kinds of spiritual insects, he finally selected the most suitable spiritual insect, that is, the yellow striped fly. This is a spiritual insect similar to a fly, but its size is slightly larger than that of a fly, and it has 2 yellow stripes on its back and wings, which is also the origin of the name of this spiritual insect. The incubation time of the eggs of the yellow striped fly is 3 days. After about 15 days, the larvae will slowly grow into adults. Then, as long as the monster meat can be provided continuously, the adult yellow striped fly will lay eggs every 15 days or so, and each yellow striped fly will lay about 20 to 30 eggs. In other words, as long as Wei Hong has enough yellow striped fly eggs, he can cultivate the eggs into adults every 18 days or so and then harvest them. If he has adults instead of eggs, it will take him about a month and a few days to harvest a wave of vitality points. In addition, before each harvest, he must leave a batch of adult yellow striped flies to let them lay eggs for the next time, so as to ensure the next wave of harvest, and so on and so forth. Because raising the previous batch of egg-laying adults will require him to invest more resources, he only needs to replace them with the latest grown adults, so as to minimize the investment. This is the result of Wei Hong's many experiments and comparisons. The yellow striped fly is the fastest breeding and fastest growing spiritual insect, and can be said to be the most suitable spiritual insect for him to brush vitality points. Haha, good, it's worth my hard work for so long, then I will specialize in breeding yellow striped flies in the future. Wei Hong was extremely satisfied with the result of more than 4 months of hard work. From tomorrow, the yellow striped fly will become his tool for brushing vitality points. Although it only takes 0.2 vitality points to crush a yellow striped fly, if there are many, the vitality points will become very considerable, and Wei Hong will not think it is too little. So far, he has more than 2,000 adult yellow striped flies. Let's get started. The other spirit insects can be abandoned for the time being. No need to consider it anymore. Wei Hong immediately made a decision in his mind. From the next day, he only cultivated a yellow striped fly as planned. Except for some eggs left as spare, all the other spirit insects were harvested by Wei Hong as vitality points. 15 days later. Looking at the dense group of yellow striped fly eggs in front of him, Wei Hong couldn't help but reveal a satisfied and happy smile on his face. Haha, not bad, not bad, the time for harvesting is coming soon. Wei Hong's eyes revealed a strong expectation. The 2,000 adult yellow striped flies laid a total of nearly 50,000 eggs, and all of them were hatched by him. And the hatching survival rate is as high as 99%, and only more than 2,000 dead eggs failed to hatch successfully. Another 15 days later. Finally here, come on. Wei Hong was extremely happy to see the crowded and densely packed adult yellow flies in front of him. However, he did not forget his business. He selected 2,000 strong and energetic ones from more than 50,000 spirit insects and kept them. After doing this, he took a deep breath, and then killed all the more than 50,000 adult yellow flies that had little resistance without hesitation. Ling. Life points plus 0.2. Ling. Life points plus 0.2. Ling. Life points plus 0.2. At this moment, the prompt sounded in Wei Hong's mind. After a wave of harvest, he obtained more than 10,000 life points. Haha, cool, this is the right way to get life points. Wei Hong laughed excitedly. 2,000 adult spirit insects can bring him at least tens of thousands of life points every month. With such a result, he was simply satisfied. Relatively speaking, he only needs to invest 1 or 200 spirit stones every month. For Wei Hong, whose wallet is gradually bulging, he doesn't feel bad at all. Instead, he feels it is worth it. He doesn't need to go out to look for it, and he doesn't need to risk his life to hunt monsters. Basically, he can easily harvest a wave of vitality points every month. Where can he find such a way? After getting tens of thousands of vitality points, Wei Hong felt that his wallet was even more bulging. Without any hesitation, he immediately raised the realm of the main practice of King Muju to the limit. After that, he maxed out the skills of drawing talismans, wood thorn talismans, fireball talismans, wood thorn talismans, wood wall talismans and water mist formations. At this moment, Wei Hong felt that his head was about to explode. All kinds of knowledge, runes, practice routes and formation patterns, etc., were all forced into his mind. The collision of knowledge and experience made Wei Hong almost dizzy. Fortunately, he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in time, then used 2 meditation talismans on himself, and began to absorb all kinds of knowledge and experience with all his heart and soul, and the whole person fell into a state of silence. After half a day, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. Wei Hong said to himself with a wry smile, "I was too careless, and almost caused a big trouble. Next time, I must not max out several skills at the same time. My head is about to explode." He shook his head gently and recovered from the slight dizziness. The great harvest this time made Wei Hong couldn't help but be extremely excited. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Return to Spider Valley. Half a year later. Spider Valley. Wei Hong appeared in the Spider Valley, and he was still busy. He was seen looking around along the edge of the valley, walking for a while, and burying a flag or a spirit stone in some places. He was busy like this, and soon he walked through the Spider Valley thoroughly. Obviously, Wei Hong was arranging the formation. He was arranging the first level lower grade water mist formation, which was also one of the formations he was most proficient in. However, the range of the formation this time was really large. Even if it was just the simplest primary formation, it took Wei Hong 2 days to determine the position of all the flags and bury them. After a while, Wei Hong came behind a huge rock and put 2 spirit stones into the eye of the formation, and then he made a hand gesture. Water mist formation, start. He just shouted, and instantly a layer of light shield appeared on the edge of the Spider Valley. Haha, it finally worked. Now I don't have to worry about being discovered by the noise. Wei Hong was quite delighted to see that the water mist array had been successfully activated. The reason why he chose to set up the array in the Spider Valley was because he felt it was necessary. Half a year ago, Wei Hong had a stable way to obtain vitality points. After that, he could basically get tens of thousands of vitality points every month. Such a considerable number instantly greatly alleviated Wei Hong's demand for vitality points. And he only needs to invest a maximum of 200 spirit stones every month. With his current wealth, he really doesn't need to feel bad at all. Now his Lingfu Pavilion's business is getting better and better, bringing him hundreds of spirit stones in profit every month, making his wealth more and more abundant. Such an expense that is of great benefit to him naturally does not need to be saved. After his wealth became abundant, Wei Hong began to make frequent moves. Every month he would go to the Treasure Pavilion, or other shops and markets, to buy various spells, talismans and arrays that he had been coveting for a long time, and enrich his foundation as much as possible. He was not afraid of biting off more than he could chew, because he had a stable income of vitality points every month. As a result, Wei Hong naturally learned all the first level middle and lower grade spells, runes and formations that he could learn. Then after half a year of practice, with the help of a large number of vitality points, he has maxed out all his skills to the limit, which made his own strength a qualitative leap. It can be said that Wei Hong has already upgraded his skills to a new level, and he has mastered all kinds of common spells, runes and formations. And after all the skills have been maxed out to the limit, their power and effect have long exceeded the normal range. It is precisely because of this that Wei Hong needs a quiet place where he will not be disturbed, but will not attract the attention of others as a place to practice the power of spells. After thinking about it, He chose the empty valley of Spider Valley. Well, not bad. Looking at the empty valley, Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction and said, "It's an empty valley, no one is competing with me, and the place is big enough, I can do whatever I want, haha." Ever since the black jade spiders in this valley were killed, this valley has been sparsely populated except for Wei Hong. So Wei Hong simply set up a large-scale water mist array to cover it, so that he could occupy the Spider Valley. Anyway, he just planned to test the power of magic here all year round. Even if he was discovered, it didn't matter. Come on, try the magic I am most familiar with first. Wei Hong's eyes condensed, and then he made a hand gesture. Puff. A long and thick wooden thorn with a pointed head and a thick tail appeared out of thin air without any warning, and stabbed fiercely at a huge rock in front. The wooden thorn actually pierced half of the boulder directly, leaving a bowl-sized hole on the boulder. If someone saw this scene at the scene, they would probably be shocked. Because from the time Wei Hong made the gesture to the time the wooden thorn appeared, it seemed to happen in an instant. There was no need for any time to prepare. He used the wooden thorn directly. And it could even penetrate such a hard boulder. Its power is self-evident. It is simply many times stronger than the ordinary wooden thorn technique. Anyone with a discerning eye can see the difference at a glance. The next moment, Wei Hong stretched out his hand. Boom! A ball of fire instantly fell from the sky and hit the boulder again. There was a roar, and the flames rose up, covering the entire boulder and emitting an abnormally hot temperature. The flames covering the boulder lasted for more than 10 breaths before slowly extinguishing, and the boulder was burned red. Well, the power of the fireball technique is really good. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong rubbed his chin with satisfaction. Then he changed the spell and suddenly mobilized his spiritual power. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With a wave of his hand, more than 10 water arrows shot out towards the red boulder. Puff. Swish. The boulder was directly penetrated, leaving more than a dozen small holes as thick as thumbs. Then the water mist was stimulated by the burning boulder with a hissing sound, spreading all around. Seeing that the boulder was already scarred, Wei Hong gave up this test goal. He turned his eyes to the ground, pinched his fingers and pointed directly, "Go." A white wind blade came out in response, and it directly grew against the wind, instantly turning into a giant wind blade more than 10 feet long, and then slashed fiercely on the ground. Puff. There was not much sound, and the giant wind blade cut the hard ground directly into a gully more than 10 meters long and more than 2 meters deep like cutting tofu. Its power was so terrifying that it was simply astonishing. If there were really people watching here, they might be scared to death. Because no matter what kind of spell Wei Hong cast, it was all in an instant state. This is the benefit and increase brought by the limit of the magic realm, and the power has also skyrocketed by who knows how many times. Take the first level middle grade wind blade technique just now. If a normal cultivator performs it, it is usually a half-meter long crescent-shaped wind blade. The power of the person who is proficient in this technique may be good, and it may be able to cut a mark of more than 1 meter on the ground. But when Wei Hong performed the wind blade technique, it was not only instantaneous, but also the wind blade became more than 10 feet long, and it caused extremely terrifying damage on the ground. Its power is far beyond the reach of ordinary cultivators. Haha, good, it is worthy of being a magic of the limit realm. Seeing this scene in front of him, Wei Hong laughed with joy. Then he continued to experiment and tried all kinds of spells. Water dragon technique, golden sword technique, falling rock technique, green wood thorn technique, earth wall technique. All kinds of spells were instantly cast, and the power made Wei Hong quite satisfied. This is the result of his practice in the past 6 months, and the effect is extremely remarkable. Chapter 447 The Power of Extreme Spells. Qingyuan Mountain Market. Lingfu Pavilion. After returning to the market from Spider Valley, Wei Hong went straight to the shop. The results of the previous experiments in Spider Valley made him very satisfied. The instantaneous speed and powerful power of various spells all showed the horror of the extreme realm. In other words, even if it is the most common spell, as long as it is cultivated to the extreme realm, the power of this spell will be reborn and undergo a qualitative change. Although Wei Hong is still at the 5th level of key training, his real combat power is far beyond the reach of the same level of cultivators. In a real fight to the death, he can directly kill even the cultivator at the peak of the 6th level of key training. Because he has cultivated dozens of first level, middle and lower grade spells, not only can he cast spells instantly, but also the spells are extremely powerful, and the combination of various spells can also be done at will, which makes his fighting methods far beyond ordinary people, and his combat power is naturally not comparable to that of ordinary cultivators. With such an indescribable sense of satisfaction, Wei Hong slowly returned to Lingfu Pavilion. "Hey, is shopkeeper Lin back?" "Oh, shopkeeper Lin, long time no see." "Haha, fellow Taoist Lin, where have you been going again?" "Fellow Taoist Lin, your talisman is really well drawn. Let's exchange ideas someday." As soon as Wei Hong returned to the spiritual talisman pavilion, he heard various greetings. After more than a year of development, his spiritual talisman pavilion has become quite famous. Because of the wide variety of talismans and their good quality, the store has a lot of customers every day. At this time, Wei Hong looked around and saw about 8 or 9 people choosing talismans. When these customers saw the shopkeeper Wei Hong coming back, they naturally greeted him in a familiar manner. These people can be said to be regular customers of the spiritual talisman pavilion. After a few visits, Wei Hong became familiar with these customers. "Haha, fellow Taoist Qi, thank you for your patronage." "Haha, fellow Taoist Wang, you haven't been here for a while, so we haven't seen each other for so long." "And fellow Taoist Miao, please don't make fun of Lin, I just went out for a stroll." Walking into the store, Wei Hong responded to every customer with a slightly warm and familiar smile. At this time, a middle-aged man in a black robe smiled at Wei Hong with his hands behind his back. "Haha, fellow Taoist Lin, your business is good, I am envious of you." "Fellow Taoist Qi, please don't make fun of me." Wei Hong smiled and waved his hands, then bowed to the people around him and said, "It's all thanks to the help and care of all the fellow Taoists. I hope you will continue to patronize more in the future. Meng Lan, give each of these fellow Taoists a fireball talisman, just as a thank you for your help." Haha. The last sentence was said to the little girl Meng Lan. Although he knew that fellow Taoist Qi was joking, Wei Hong was also quite good at dealing with people. He would also express his gratitude to these old customers appropriately, so that they would feel comfortable and would naturally patronize his spirit talisman pavilion more often in the future. "Hey, okay. Meng Lan, who was busy running around, responded without turning her head. However, the customers smiled and thanked him, but did not refuse. A fireball talisman was nothing to them, but Wei Hong could give each of them one, which represented face and Wei Hong's intention, so they naturally did not have to refuse. Soon, several customers bought talismans and left the store. Fellow Taoist Qi walked to Wei Hong's side and whispered, "Fellow Taoist Lin, do you still have this Scorching Sun talisman? If you do, give me 10. Scorching Sun talisman." Wei Hong looked at fellow Taoist Qi with a little surprise, and replied with a smile, "Of course I have. I'll ask Meng Lan to give it to you." "Okay." Fellow Taoist Qi smiled with satisfaction. Wei Hong didn't understand why fellow Taoist Qi suddenly asked him about the Fiery Sun talisman in a low voice. He felt something strange but didn't care. After seeing off several guests, Wei Hong walked into the lounge. At this time, the little girl Meng Lan took the time to follow him in, and before Wei Hong asked, she urged him, "Boss, please hurry up and draw the talismans. Many talismans are running out of stock. If you don't hurry up, our business will be affected." Wei Hong sighed in silence, because this was the third time Meng Lan urged him to speed up the drawing of talismans. "Don't be too nervous, I just saw that there are still a lot of stocks." Wei Hong replied helplessly. Those who didn't know would think that Meng Lan was the boss, and he was just a servant who specialized in drawing talismans. But the little girl Meng Lan pouted and said, "You don't know, there are many customers coming every day, and all kinds of talismans are on short supply. If you don't hurry up to draw talismans, many talismans will be out of stock, and then we will lose a lot." Okay, I'll draw it right away, okay." Wei Hong smiled bitterly, picked up the talisman pen and gestured to Meng Lan. The little girl Meng Lan left the lounge with satisfaction, and then continued to greet the guests outside. Wei Hong put away all his thoughts and began to draw talismans seriously. In fact, Wei Hong himself knew that since his identity as a first-level mid-grade talisman painter had spread, many customers were quite satisfied with the talismans he drew, and Wei Hong was also good at dozens of talismans, which could meet the needs of most customers. This is not something that ordinary talisman painters can compare. Therefore, the business of Lingfu Pavilion is getting more and more popular, and more people choose to come to Lingfu Pavilion to buy talismans, or find Wei Hong to customize the talismans they need. Wei Hong knows these situations. As a result, Wei Hong's identity and status have quietly improved a lot. Not only those familiar customers will be polite to Wei Hong, even the shopkeepers of the surrounding shops, after learning about these situations, will often visit the Lingfu Pavilion or chat with Wei Hong. Take this afternoon for example, at least 3 shopkeepers came to visit. It's just that they didn't come together, but came one after another. These shopkeepers didn't do anything when they came, usually just chatted with Wei Hong for a few words, or bought a few talismans when they left, and there was nothing else. But the attitude of these people has changed significantly from the beginning, and they have become much more enthusiastic when treating Wei Hong, instead of false courtesy, which Wei Hong can still feel. Sure enough, this is the change in status brought about by background and identity. This is reality. Thinking of some changes that he has slowly felt, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh. But this will not affect him at all, and he will not be proud of it. Draw talismans when you need to draw talismans, practice when you need to practice. Life is still as usual, without any waves. Chapter 448, Doubts, the Evil Killing Talisman. Waves suddenly arose. Perhaps Wei Hong himself did not expect that his originally peaceful life would change so quickly. The next day, Wei Hong opened the store as usual. After opening the door, the little girl Meng Lan followed. Then, without his instructions, Meng Lan would be very diligent to clean the store from top to bottom, and then put all kinds of talismans in order. If they were out of stock, she would get them from the warehouse, and if they were urgently needed, she would record them first. Wei Hong didn't care about these, he just drew talismans. But just when he was about to enter the lounge to draw talismans, someone suddenly came to the door. "Hey, Senior Qi, why are you here so early today?" After seeing the person clearly, Meng Lan immediately greeted him enthusiastically. "Haha, fellow Taoist Qi? Come in quickly." Wei Hong also saw the guest who came to the door at this time, and couldn't help but be a little surprised. This guest was Qi Zinayan, who bought 10 Fiery Sun talismans from Wei Hong yesterday, but Wei Hong didn't expect him to come to the store so early today. Qi Zinayan nodded to Meng Lan first, then waved his hand at Wei Hong and said, "No need to sit down, fellow Taoist Lin. Do you still have exorcism talismans and Fiery Sun talismans? If so, give me 10 of each." Qi Zinayan got straight to the point and explained his purpose. Wei Hong was even more surprised at this time, but he did not show it on the surface. He smiled and nodded first. "Of course I have them, Meng Lan. Go get the talismans that fellow Taoist Qi needs." After Meng Lan left in response, he asked casually, "Fellow Taoist Qi, why did you only buy exorcism talismans and Fiery Sun talismans? Did you encounter any evil spirits?" "Haha, that's not the case, it's just to be prepared, buy a few more." Qi Zinayan's face was also indifferent, but there was a flash of strangeness in his eyes. If Wei Hong hadn't observed carefully, he would have almost missed it. Wei Hong frowned secretly, but did not ask any more questions. Instead, he smiled and said, "Haha, that's right. I have to thank you for taking care of my business." "Hey, what are you thanking me for? It's business." Qi Zinayan waved his hand. He did not sit down either. After Meng Lan brought the 2 talismans he needed, Qi Zinayan paid the spiritual stones, said hello to Wei Hong, and turned to leave. Exorcism talisman? Blazing Sun talisman. Looking at Qi Zinayan's leaving back, Wei Hong frowned and muttered secretly. However, he still did not think much at this time. He just thought that Qi Zinayan might be preparing to deal with some evil spirits, or really wanted to keep them on him as a backup, so he bought the exorcism talisman and the blazing sun talisman. "Meng Lan, call me if you need anything. I'll go in and draw talismans." Wei Hong shook his head to dispel the strangeness in his heart, told Meng Lan a word, and turned to walk into the lounge. Because of Qi Zinayan's actions, he actually drew more exorcism talismans and blazing sun talismans today. The third day, Wei Hong opened the door as usual and then drew talismans. But at noon, Meng Lan came in and said, "Boss, someone wants to see you." "Who is it? Can't I just go to you to buy the talisman?" Wei Hong asked casually while drawing the talisman. Meng Lan replied, "I don't know him. He is not a previous customer." The man said his surname is Wong and he is from the Wong family. Wong family. Wei Hong frowned when he heard that. After he finished drawing the talisman, he thought about it and walked out, then go out and meet him. "Don't worry about the others. Okay." Since the man claimed to be from the Wong family, Wei Hong understood his origin. There are many small immortal cultivation families around the market, and the so-called Wong family should be one of them. It sounds like it is very powerful, but it is actually just a very small family. After Wei Hong came out of the lounge, he saw a man in his 30s waiting on the side. This man was wearing a gray robe, with a bun on his head and a short beard on his face. He looked quite calm. "My name is Lin Hong. May I know your name?" Wei Hong was the first to greet him. "You are too polite, fellow Taoist Lin. I am Wang Wenbin, from the Wang family." Wang Wenbin also responded politely. Upon hearing this, Wei Hong immediately showed a look of surprise. "Oh? So you are a fellow Taoist from the Wang family. I am really disrespectful to you." Wang Wenbin also smiled and exchanged pleasantries with Wei Hong. After a while, Wei Hong asked, "I wonder what fellow Taoist Wang is here for." Wang Wenbin also said quickly, "Haha, I came to the Lingfu Pavilion to buy talismans, but don't blame fellow Taoist Lin. I asked this little girl to inform you because I wanted to talk to you in person." "Oh." Wei Hong looked suspicious and couldn't help but continue to ask, "Does fellow Taoist Wang want to buy some uncommon talismans? Or do you want to customize a batch?" As long as the price is right, Wei Hong can naturally take the time to draw the talismans required by the customer. Wang Wenbin shook his head and said, "To be honest with you, fellow Taoist Lin, I came here on the orders of my family to buy a batch of exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans from the Lingfu Pavilion. We will take as many as you have in the Lingfu Pavilion." "Exorcism talismans? Scorching sun talismans?" Wei Hong muttered softly. At this moment, the doubts and puzzlement in his heart suddenly became stronger. Not only because of Qi Zinayan, but also because there were quite a few people who came to buy exorcism talismans in the past 2 days. Now even a small cultivation family has sent people to come to the door, and they have specified exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans. It is difficult for Wei Hong not to notice such an abnormal phenomenon. However, he does not know what happened or what is about to happen, so he did not show much abnormality. He just suppressed this doubt in his heart and prepared to ask someone about it later. He pondered for a while, then replied, "That's not a problem. Our Lingfu Pavilion is a business. It's my great honor that you can take care of our business." As he said that, Wei Hong wanted to ask Meng Lan to get all the 2 talismans that Wang Wenbin needed. However, Wang Wenbin stopped him and said, "Hey, Lin Daoyao, there's no rush. I also want to ask, do you know other types of exorcism talismans? For example, a first-class top-grade exorcism talisman." Wei Hong's eyes condensed, and he guessed that this was the real reason why Wang Wenbin wanted to meet with him. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Wang Daoyao, please don't make fun of me. I'm only in the middle stage of key training. How can I draw first-class top-grade exorcism talisman? I'm afraid I'll disappoint you." "Oh? Haha, that's not the case. Exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans are also fine." Although he said so, Wei Hong could clearly detect a flash of disappointment in Wang Wenbin's eyes. He shook his head secretly, regardless of what he thought. At present, Wei Hong really had not learned any first-class superior talisman. However, Wang Wenbin's action of specifically wanting the evil-killing talisman made him more certain of one thing. There must be something unusual happening. Chapter 449, Uproar. "Wang Daoyao, take care." Wei Hong politely saw Wang Wenbin off. Watching his departing figure, Wei Hong could not help but fall into deep thought. Just now, when Wang Wenbin learned that he had not yet learned the exorcism talisman, he was obviously a little disappointed. Although Wang Wenbin concealed it well, Wei Hong still noticed it. Later, he did not stay for long. After chatting with Wei Hong for a few words, he waited for Meng Lan to bring all the talismans he needed, and he paid the spirit stones and said goodbye directly. Wei Hong naturally did not ask more questions, but politely stood up to see him off. There must be something I don't know about, otherwise there wouldn't be so many people coming to buy exorcism talismans. Wei Hong was extremely certain in his heart. What happened next confirmed his guess even more. Because more people came to buy exorcism talismans that day, and several other small immortal cultivation families also came after hearing the news, wanting to buy all the exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans in the Lingfu Pavilion, which seemed unusually generous. Wei Hong was running out of time to draw, and the exorcism talisman and the fiery sun talisman were sold out. The exorcism talisman was not bad, it was just a first-grade low-quality talisman, worth 1 spirit stone plus 20 broken spirits, But the Fiery Sun talisman was a first-grade medium-quality talisman, one required 4 spirit stones, and usually not many people bought it, but now it was all sold out. No, I have to find someone to ask what happened, otherwise I will be unprepared if I encounter it. Wei Hong frowned secretly, and made a decision in his heart. He first asked Meng Lan to hang a sign that said the Exorcism Talisman and the Fiery Sun Talisman were all sold out. Then he asked Meng Lan to take care of the store, and he turned around and walked into the magic weapon shop next door. "Hey, shopkeeper Lin, why are you here?" The servant in the magic weapon shop saw Wei Hong coming and immediately greeted him warmly. Wei Hong waved his hand and said, "Come and chat with your shopkeeper. Don't worry about me. Go and do your own thing." "Okay, then, please do as you please. Our shopkeeper is in the back." The servant said hello and walked away. Wei Hong walked leisurely to the backyard, looking very familiar. The first shop he visited on the first day of opening was this shop selling magic tools. Their shopkeeper was called Han Zhen. Han Zhen had already come out when he heard the sound. "Haha, Brother Lin is here? Come and sit down. Han just made a pot of good tea." Wei Hong smiled and responded, and then sat down in front of a coffee table without being polite. Han Zhen immediately poured him a cup of steaming hot tea. He took a sip and couldn't help but praise, "Wow, good tea. Brother Han really knows how to enjoy it." "Haha, Brother Lin is joking." Han Zhen smiled and waved his hand. They were quite familiar with each other, and it was common for the two of them to walk around and chat. But at this time Wei Hong straightened his expression. He put down the teacup and looked at Han Zhen. "Fellow Taoist Han, Lin came here this time to consult you about something." "Huh?" Han Zhen's face was stunned, and then he became solemn. He said, "What does fellow Taoist Lin want to ask? If Han knows, he will tell you everything." "Haha, it's not that serious." Wei Hong laughed twice to ease the atmosphere, and then asked, "It's like this. Recently my Lingfu Pavilion suddenly has a lot of customers coming to the door to buy exorcism talismans. Even several immortal cultivation families have sent people here, and they are also looking for exorcism talismans. This is obviously something wrong. But I seldom go out, and I am not well informed about the news from the outside world, so I want to ask fellow Taoist Han, but what unusual things have happened in the market or outside recently? So many people are buying exorcism talismans. Is there an evil spirit at work?" After asking this question, Wei Hong stared at Han Zhen. Han Zhen breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Wei Hong with a solemn face and said, "So that's what fellow Taoist Lin is asking about. It seems that fellow Taoist Lin is not well informed. I thought fellow Taoist Lin knew it a long time ago." Then, Han Zhen immediately explained, "Yes, it is indeed as fellow Taoist Lin expected. There are indeed evil spirits in and outside the market recently. No, it is not necessarily evil spirits, it may also be weird." "Oh." A trace of understanding and surprise flashed across Wei Hong's face, and he immediately asked, "Evil spirits? Weird? What exactly is it?" Wei Hong had heard of strange events but had never encountered them. He didn't expect that this time it would be weird. At this moment, the doubts of those people who bought the Exorcism Talisman and the Scorching Sun Talisman were answered. But a bigger doubt followed, that is, what kind of evil spirits and weird things were not dispelled and eliminated in the first time, but instead forced many people to buy Exorcism Talismans to prevent this. Han Zhen did not hide anything and explained directly, "This matter has caused quite a stir. Even if fellow Taoist Lin did not come today, I believe you will know about it in 2 days. It is said that the weirdness first appeared half a month ago, but the weirdness first appeared outside the market, and it was the Chen family who discovered it. That night, 2 members of the Chen family died suddenly, and their deaths were miserable. Their bodies were frozen and they had no energy at all, as if they had encountered a great terror. Finally, it was confirmed by the elders of the Chen family that they were killed by a weird person. This incident shocked the Chen family, and they immediately took corresponding precautions the next day. But on the second night, 2 more members of the Chen family were killed, and their deaths were exactly the same as the previous 2. As a result, the Chen family was immediately panicked, and everyone was afraid that they would encounter weirdness. The Chen clan leader and other clan elders also knew the seriousness of the matter, and immediately adopted the highest level of defense. They were even forced to activate the clan protection formation. However, on the third night, 4 members of the Chen clan were killed again. This incident immediately frightened the entire Chen clan. In desperation, The Chen clan had to pay a large sum of money to ask King Insect to help, and only then was the remaining clan members protected. Having said this, Han Zhen paused for a while, giving Wei Hong time to digest, and then drank a cup of tea before continuing. The Chen clan was saved, and the weirdness temporarily retreated from the Chen clan, but afterwards there were several more weird incidents in the market, and the deaths of the people were exactly the same as those of the Chen clan members. As a result, an uproar immediately arose inside and outside the market, and many people panicked, fearing that they would also be killed by weirdness or evil spirits. That's why so many people go to fellow Taoist Lin's Lingfu Pavilion to buy talismans for exorcism. They probably want to be on guard secretly in case something unexpected really happens. Han Zhen told Wei Hong about what had happened recently. Chapter 450 Intelligence, Evil. Weird. Evil. The strange events that happened now made the monks inside and outside the Qingyuan Mountain Market extremely panic. A large number of monks are afraid of strange disasters, and they are also afraid that they will be targeted by strange or evil spirits, so they will go around to buy various talismans to exorcise evil spirits to add some means to deal with strangeness. The so-called weird is not an adjective, but a noun, the name of a special evil spirit. As far as Wei Hong knows, all weird things are invisible, but they can control tangible things. The abilities they have are also very special, or they can absorb people's essence, or they can create illusions. In short, they are very difficult to deal with, and ordinary people are really a little hard to guard against. Even if it is a monk in the late stage of key training, if there is no corresponding means to deal with weirdness, he may suffer from the poisonous hands of weirdness. Wei Hong believes that this is definitely not a threat. What's more, so many monks are secretly preparing various things that can deal with weirdness. Doesn't this further prove the horror of weirdness? I didn't expect this weirdness to be so terrifying that even so many cultivators are terrified. It seems that I have to make some preparations. After listening to Han Zhen's description, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Such a terrifying weirdness, naturally no one wants to encounter it. He showed a look of shock on his face, and sighed, "It's like this, no wonder so many people come to buy exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans, and even people from the Wang family asked me if I could draw the evil killing talisman. It seems that they are also afraid of following the footsteps of the Chen family." Who said it wasn't? Han Zhen sighed and said, "For now, the weirdness has not been dispelled and eliminated. I don't know whether King Iman doesn't want to pay attention to this matter, or is waiting and watching. In short, we all need to be careful. Fellow Taoist Lin, you'd better prepare more exorcism talismans." Han Zhen's words were also good advice. Wei Hong nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, Lin has the same idea. Thank you, fellow Taoist Han, for clearing up my doubts." Then Lin will take his leave first. Now that he knew the truth of the matter, Wei Hong naturally did not want to waste time staying here. He still needed to go back to draw talismans and make various preparations. After all, no one knew whether the strange would really target him, so it was necessary to be prepared. "Okay, fellow Taoist Lin, take care." Han Zhen also understood this and immediately stood up to see him off. Wei Hong stopped Han Zhen and turned around and returned to the Spirit Talisman Pavilion. Thinking of the horror of the strange, he did not dare to neglect it at all. He immediately entered the lounge and began to draw talismans, and only drew the exorcism talisman and the scorching sun talisman. Now he had only these two talismans that could pose a threat to the strange. "Hurry up and draw the talismans, draw as many as you can." Wei Hong was drawing the talismans calmly, thinking to himself, "Fortunately, I have kept a batch of various talismans before. I didn't expect that they can really be used in an emergency. Oh, and there is also the little girl Meng Lan. Let me think about it, I'd better give her a few, otherwise if she really encounters something strange, she will definitely die without the talismans." Wei Hong's thoughts were quite thoughtful. After all, he used Meng Lan very well, and naturally didn't want her to die like this, so he planned to give her a few talismans to protect her. Suppressing the distracting thoughts in his heart, Wei Hong began to draw talismans with all his strength. At this time, he would not dislike too many talismans, and even wished that the more exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans, the better, so that he could feel more secure. It was almost dusk when Wei Hong finally put down the talisman pen in his hand. Without any delay, he put away all the talismans and walked out of the lounge. "Boss, you are out." Meng Lan looked up at Wei Hong. Wei Hong nodded to Meng Lan, and then ordered solemnly, Close the shop, go back early, and don't go out at night, remember. By the way, take these talismans for self-defense, don't ask too much about other things, just remember what I said. Wei Hong took out 6 talismans and handed them to Meng Lan. 3 exorcism talismans and 3 scorching sun talismans. These 6 talismans alone are worth more than 10 spirit stones. But Wei Hong didn't feel sorry at all, just a few talismans. Meng Lan has been running the store for him for so long, it's only right to help her. Meng Lan's face suddenly changed. She looked at Wei Hong with panic and anxiety. This shopkeeper, what's wrong? What happened? Did I tell you not to ask too much? Just remember what I said, remember to keep these talismans close to you. Wei Hong frowned and whispered a few words of warning. Meng Lan seemed to understand, but still nodded very seriously. After closing the door, Wei Hong asked Meng Lan to go back to her residence first, and he turned and walked towards the direction of the treasure pavilion. If the economic conditions allow, Wei Hong absolutely does not mind preparing a few more methods to deal with the weird. Ever since he heard Wang Wenbin talk about the evil-killing talisman, he began to pay attention. At this time, he had prepared dozens of evil-repelling talismans and scorching sun talismans in his hands, but Wei Hong still felt that it was not safe enough, so he simply went to the treasure pavilion to buy a talisman inheritance of the evil-killing talisman, and it would be best if he could draw the evil-killing talisman as soon as possible. After arriving at the treasure pavilion, Wei Hong went straight to the point. Tell your steward that I need a talisman inheritance of the evil-killing talisman. Oh, okay, wait a moment, guest, I will call our steward over right away. The servant who was responsible for entertaining Wei Hong turned around and left immediately after hearing this. Soon, the steward of the treasure pavilion came over and greeted, this Taoist friend, do you want to buy the talisman of the evil-killing talisman? Yes, how much is it? Wei Hong was very direct. Sincerely, I want the inheritance of the evil-killing talisman for 110 spirit stones. The steward knew Wei Hong was sincere in buying it when he saw this attitude, so he immediately quoted the price. Wei Hong directly took out 110 spirit stones and put them on the table, saying, no problem, give me one right away. Okay, Taoist friend, wait a moment, I'll ask someone to bring the jade slip right away. The steward's smile became even more enthusiastic. Soon, a servant came over with a plate with a jade slip. The steward took the plate and put it down, then picked up the jade slip and handed it to Wei Hong. Dao, this is the evil-killing talisman you bought, please check it. Yes. Wei Hong was not polite, he took the jade slip and put it on his forehead. After a moment, he took the jade slip away, nodded and said, there is no problem with the talisman, deal. After that, Wei Hong turned around and left. Okay, please take care, my guest. Come on, send him off. The manager nodded and asked a servant to send Wei Hong out. After buying the talisman inheritance of the evil-killing talisman, Wei Hong felt more at ease. This evil-killing talisman needs to be drawn as soon as possible. With this top-grade evil-killing talisman, ordinary monsters will definitely not dare to approach. Thinking this in his heart, Wei Hong quickly returned to the courtyard. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.